College should be a time of excitement, exploration, a time to redefine who you are. For some students, they may be the first in their family to attend college, trying to not only better their own lives, but the lives of their families too.
Literally everybody in my family was unemployed.
But for others, attending college may be an even bigger deal and an even bigger challenge.
I had enough money to stay in hotels for the beginning of my homelessness. After the money ran out, I then resulted to the shelter because I knew that I wanted to keep my kids safe.
Thanks to brave students sharing their stories and the dedicated educators willing to listen, we've learned that students are coming to class hungry, struggling to finish homework, navigate extracurricular activities, hold down jobs, and feed themselves.
Eventually you start losing focus and your body starts shaking.
Their grades suffer, and many are forced to drop out at a much higher rate than their food-secure peers.
I was feeling like enough was enough, and I couldn't take it with being homeless with 2 children.
But that doesn't have to be the only way.
Hi, thank you for calling Purple Apron Pantry.
Colleges and Food Bank for New York City have teamed up to establish over 20 college campus pantries across the city to help stamp out hunger, one student at a time.
You can always come to school and find the resources you need. I now know that I cannot take them for granted because all of the great resources they provide for us is not everywhere else.
No pasta?
When you bring fresh, nutritious food to campuses, you change lives, delivering the vital resources students need to survive and the hope they need to thrive.
It's a blessing. It's like thank you to God. Like in our language we say alhamdulillah, which is thanking God for whatever He's giving us.
Let's empower our city's future leaders to achieve food security for good. There is no one better to invest in them than you. Welcome to the College Food Security Summit. Good morning everyone. My name is Kamisha Grand. I am the Vice President for Community Impact and Investment here at the Food Bank for New York City. Thank you so much for being here today. We're excited that you have been able to join us for this first convening of its kind, a collaboration between Food Bank for New York City and Medgar Evers College to raise awareness on this very important issue of food security on college campuses. So why are we here? As you heard on the video, college students are our future, and I think we can all agree to that, yes? So there is an issue that is impacting far too many of our college students, and that is hunger on college campuses. We brought in the biggest and the brightest names in this space to share insights with us today, information, personal stories, and data. We'll hear from advocates and leaders in academia who will not only address the problem, but actually talk to us about solutions. We think that's important, right? We need some solutions to this issue. So sit back and be prepared to participate, to be enlightened, to be curious. We want you to be curious as you're hearing all of these stories today and gathering and learning more from this information. To be energized and to be advocates for change. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Dr. Jesse Kane, Senior Vice President of Student Success and Enrollment Management at Medgar Evers College. Let's welcome him as he comes to the stage.
Good morning. Thank you, Kamisha. It is my pleasure to greet you this morning and to welcome you to Medgar Evers College as we really discussing a very important and critical issue for our students, but also for our community and city. This issue is one that we see as part of our student success strategy here at the college, and that understanding that access to healthy foods without having to worry where your next meal comes from is an important part of our learning here at the college. And so we are so fortunate to have partners like New York City Food Bank to help us do this work. And so I'm happy to be able to work with Dr. Waleed Boone through what he does through the Transition Academy and providing these wraparound services to our students. And so what he has done and what he is doing, not only for the students at Medgar Evers, but for the Medgar Evers community at large, is nothing short of amazing. So welcome. I'm happy to learn from you all. I'm happy to be engaged in an action-based conversation because it's important to talk about it, but it's also important to have strategies where we can develop approaches to address this issue so that we don't have to have conferences like this and summits like this, right? That we can eradicate this issue. So that was my first task. My second task is to introduce to you our president, Dr. Patricia Ramsey. In May of 2021, Dr. Ramsey joined Medgar Evers College as our 6th president and our first woman president. She is a scientist, and so she's very, the way that she thinks about problems is through a scientific approach, right? And so this is similar to this issue is similar to how she approaches most issues, really investigating what the challenge is and to develop the appropriate solutions to address those challenges. And she has done that in her time here at Medgar Evers as she's leading this campus in new directions and supporting the work that is being done on this important issue. Dr. Ramsey comes to Medgar Evers College from the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is one of the leading policymakers around support for HBCUs and PBIs within this country. She was a senior fellow there, and she has served in multiple leadership roles throughout various institutions in the country, serving as Vice President of Academic Affairs, Development Officer, all the way up through interim presidents at institutions. Dr. Ramsey is a graduate of Norfolk State University, Howard and Harvard University, as well as Georgetown University. It is my pleasure to bring before you our 6th president, Dr. Patricia Ramsey.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Medgar Evers College, a college birthed out of this very community, out of the central Brooklyn community, with social justice in its DNA, named for Medgar Wiley Evers, who gave his life for the rights of others, specifically for the rights of people in Mississippi to vote, slain in his driveway 60 years ago in June. And Medgar Evers College, because of how it was birthed out of community, this college is very integrated with community. We are the only college in the state of New York that has as a part of its charter community. And so therefore, when we see ourselves as an institution providing higher education, it's not just for the students who come before us, but we also provide education broadly for the community. We are here today to talk about food security, but food security is connected to a lot of other things, as we know, because if we have healthy food, it helps us to have healthy communities. And so education is key to us being successful as a community and as a country, no matter what folks in Washington say. And so as an institution of higher education, we are in a great position to influence what happens locally as well as in Washington, D.C., where the laws are made. And each of you here today, you are here because you care about this topic, and we know that we have wonderful speakers as a part of this program. We thank all of you for being here. We thank our partners because we cannot do this work alone. So again, welcome to Medgar Evers College, and please do enjoy the program, and please do commit to do what you can as an individual to make sure that we don't have to have conferences like this in the future. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so great that you can be here with us today. My name is Dr. Walik Boone. I am the director of the Transitional Academy here at Medgar Evers College. And some of the services that we provide to our students who are faced with homelessness, housing instability, and food insecurity is to make sure they stay on track, graduate on time, and improve their living conditions. We were started in 2017. We became aware that we have students on campus that are homeless. So students, deans, administrators, faculty came together and said, we have to do something about this problem. What we didn't know that there was other issues that was going on with our students. It wasn't just homelessness. It was food insecurity. Our students were sacrificing buying the Metro card instead of buying groceries, which you will learn as we get through the program. We pride ourselves on making sure our students succeed academic success, which is to graduate. Because they look at a higher educational degree as a stepping stone to better their living conditions or improve their salary. But I'm tasked here today to introduce the leader of Food Bank for NYC. Food Bank has been a strong partner of us. We are an institution that don't get much funding. It ain't no secret. And I speak direct for those who know me. So our external partners help us to make sure our students have the necessary resources they need to continue their education. And you'll hear more about it in the program. So with that said, I'm going to read a little bit about the CEO and president of Food Bank. Leslie Gordon is Food Bank New York City's president and chief executive officer. She assumed the post at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and led one of the nation's largest food banks to double its annual output of food from 70 million pounds to nearly 150 pounds of food in less than 18 months. Amazing. For more than a decade, Leslie has led efforts to feed our neighbors in need and help lift them out of poverty in New York City and surrounding communities. Leslie is also the chair of board of directors of Feeding New York State and a member of board of directors of the Hunts Point Cooperative Market. Please help me welcome a strong leader in the fight to combat hunger, Leslie Gordon.
All right, all right, all right. Let me hear you a little bit louder. Good morning, Medgar Evers. Oh, come on, y'all can do a little better. Good morning, Medgar Evers. All right, welcome to the College Food Security Summit. My name is Leslie Gordon. I have the daily, regular honor and pleasure of being the president and CEO of our food bank for New York City. First, I want to start out with two simple but really important words. Thank you. A great big heartfelt thank you to Medgar Evers College for hosting us today. Thank you, Dr. Boone, President Ramsey, and to all our amazing CUNY partners, students, pantry managers. A great big heartfelt thank you to our amazing and talented Food Bank for New York City team. We couldn't do what we do every single day without the amazing team behind the scenes that powers our mission. And so know that I appreciate you and that I see you every single day. All of you do great work with real impact, and super grateful for this amazing partnership. We also want to thank the many elected officials, government agency representatives who are with us today, as well as our amazing media partner, WABC TV. But first, I want to take all of you way back. Sit with me in this for a minute. Do you remember when you were young and people asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? And there's the typical police officer, fireman. I was convinced that I was going to be a veterinarian. And well, we know what happened. Everyone is a person of promise, a burning, brilliant light of energy, poised to become personally amazing. We all, each and every one of us, and all of our students across this great city and in the CUNY system have a right to self-determination and to achieve what we want for ourselves. I believe that as a community, we have a responsibility, it is an imperative, to help elevate and lift each other to be individually amazing in the ways that we envision for ourselves. Collectively, we are the helpers. We're all assembled here today to ensure that all who want to achieve their dreams have all the important and fundamental resources that they need to achieve their dreams. It takes all of us working together, leveraging our great strengths and assets to help others soar and see no limits. And at Food Bank, we're honored to be doing this important work with you. So here's a little bit of background. We started our relationship with CUNY way back in 2012 during the Hurricane Sandy era with Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn. That campus had suffered some pretty serious damage, and students and staff lost their homes. I was actually on the ground right here in our great city working in the food insecurity space during that time. And I remember seeing firsthand the struggles. Does anybody remember running out of gas? My car actually ran out of gas. Unfortunately, gas stations are not aplenty in the boroughs of New York City. And I remember saying to our amazing NYPD, let me through, I'm essential, I am feeding New York City. I also got to view and experience something really beautiful. The amazing compassion in the days and weeks and months that followed Hurricane Sandy. I saw, and we continue to see today, and all of you are an example of this, New Yorkers who stand up to help others and fill the needs of their neighbors. Because after all, isn't that what New Yorkers do best? We all rise up collectively to help others in their greatest moments of need. And that is exactly what CUNY did. CUNY spoke to students and learned about their needs, about food insecurity, and took the time to listen to those students. And that's when they called Food Bank for New York City for help. And we're going to be leaning in today, authentically and intentionally, to do some more listening so that we can continue to do this great work and have even greater impact. So as you can see, we've been friends with CUNY for a long time. We've got campus pantries in nearly every corner of our amazing city. From here at Medgar Evers in Brooklyn, to Lehman College in the Bronx, to Queens College, John Jay College in Manhattan. I am incredibly proud that together we've set up more than 20 college campus pantries to support our next generation, to make sure that they have the important nourishment and fuel to power their dreams, to make sure that they can pay attention in class, that they feel well supported, that we take away just a little bit of the tone and tenor of that background of constant stress that plays out for people that don't have all the essential resources that they need. The problem is big, and when we talk about numbers, it can sound daunting. But we start with each one reach one. There are about 1.2, 1.3 million New Yorkers who are currently facing food insecurity, have the stress not knowing when their next meal is going to be or what it will be. And many of them, very unfortunately, are students right here at Medgar Evers. Believe it or not, college students are more likely to struggle with hunger than the general population. If you're food insecure before you come to college, just because you set foot on a campus does not mean that that issue and that problem disappears. There's tuition. We all know non-tuition expenses. There's books. There's housing. There's technology purchases. You need a new laptop. All these can present real challenges for students. And that cannot and should not happen in our amazing city and our great nation. Not long ago, I met an incredible woman who runs a mobile pantry program at one of our agencies in Manhattan. She came here from another country to get her graduate degree and study homelessness in New York City. Ironically, she wound up homeless herself, living on the subway, but because she had a book bag and books in her hand, no one knew, and she told no one. Let it begin right here today that we make it okay for people who are food insecure to feel confident and comfortable in talking about their experiences and raising their hand to say, I need help, or I'm here to help. Throughout today, you'll hear stories from some incredibly brave young people, and I can't wait to meet them, who said that their CUNY campus pantry quite literally saved their lives, and we thank them for their bravery. It is our great honor to partner with Medgar Evers and with all of you from colleges around our great city. You do incredible work. And so speaking of hard work, I have the pleasure and honor this morning of introducing a longtime friend and colleague. We've been in the trenches together for over a decade fighting food insecurity. And she's doing amazing work on behalf of all New Yorkers. As Executive Director of New York City Mayor's Office of Food Policy, the fabulous Kate MacKenzie advises our great mayor on all issues related to food policy and the city's food system. Kate oversees groundbreaking initiatives to ensure that our New Yorkers have access to safe and healthy food. There's the Food Forward New York City, the city's first ever 10-year food policy plan, outlining specific needs and investments and timelines. There's the city's good food purchasing commitments, focused on increasing access to healthy, sustainable foods for the over, take this in for a minute, 230 million meals and snacks served daily by city agencies, public schools, and senior centers. It is my great honor and pleasure. Please give a round of applause and a warm welcome to the fabulous Kate MacKenzie.
We're friends, I love that, Leslie. Thank you so much. It is so wonderful to be here this morning with all of you. I adore Leslie. Leslie is such an amazing leader, and we couldn't be more well served to have her as head of the food bank for New York City. My name is Kate MacKenzie. I run the Mayor's Office of Food Policy, and our newest staff member is here today. Where's Lauren? Lauren Drumgold is our newest policy advisor, going to be focusing a lot on benefits access and food insecurity across the city. I also want to show appreciation and gratitude to our esteemed council members, Crystal Hudson of District 35 and Eric Dinowitz for Council District 11 for also showing support for these issues. Heartfelt appreciation to Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal, representing Assembly District 37, for her unwavering support, and Farah Souffrant-Forrest, representing District 57. College is a transformative experience, and all the more made possible through our CUNY system. And the CUNY system is such an asset to our city, especially when we consider the student population, when we consider that we have students here who are carrying other jobs, are caring for families, are caring for the many challenges that are faced by New Yorkers. And it becomes even more transformative and equally challenging when you're dealing with food insecurity. We all know, we experience, and continue to realize that how much the pandemic starkly revealed the harsh realities that limited food access can place upon our lives. Even today, those very constraints persist within CUNY schools. We must, without question, reopen college cafeterias and dining halls for the countless students who depend on them. Much like our K-12 public schools served by Chris Turcarico and his team at the Office of Food and Nutrition Services, many students in our school system, public school system, rely on those cafeterias as their primary source of nourishment. That's the same for our CUNY students. And knowing that you have a place to grab something, to grab a meal in between classes or in between coming from a job or taking care of kids, to know that you have a ready available source of food is essential. Our CUNY cafeterias are also important spaces for community. They help students build connections over shared meals and to take an active role in their food system. At many colleges across the country, and I know here in the city, students build partnerships with their local farms and growers or drive sustainability partnerships through their campus cafeterias that connect to their classroom work. Let's open the doors again to nourishment and opportunity for our students. It's so tough to focus on studies when you're constantly worried about where your next meal is going to come from or how you're going to make sure that your family has a meal on their table tonight. We know there's a significant relationship between food insecurity and academic performances on college campuses. Higher rates of food insecurity have been shown to affect GPAs, increased rates of stress and depression, and I'm so thankful that association is coming more into being talked about and being addressed, and contribute to a higher rate of chronic disease when students have to choose between cheaper but less nutritious and highly processed fast foods that can also surround our campuses. I know my colleague Nick Freudenberg is going to talk later today about some of the data, but we know that frankly, more than 40% of CUNY students are affected by food insecurity, and that's just unconscionable. We can't turn a blind eye to these students, to those who deserve our support and compassion. Currently, the city provides support through CUNY food pantries in partnership with Food Bank to collaborate with our Community Food Connection program to ensure that those pantries remain stocked and filled and open. But we need to do more. We must work towards providing access to food programs like SNAP, and Senator Gillibrand's proposed legislation called the EATS Act, gotta love a good acronym, enhancing access to SNAP. That act is a game changer. It would remove the requirement for student SNAP eligibility to be dependent on performing 20 hours of work outside of employment, outside employment or work study. That's crazy. That has to be put into place. This change would level the playing field for low-income college students, putting them on equal footing with other SNAP-eligible individuals. Addressing food insecurity among CUNY students is essential to create a supportive and equitable educational environment. Initiatives such as food pantries, meal programs, financial assistance help to mitigate the effects of food insecurity on academic performance and academic well-being. Thank you. You're going to have such a robust conversation today. And I really, again, appreciate the food bank for convening and being persistently driven to ensuring that no New Yorker experiences food insecurity. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is Amanda Williams. I am the Associate Director of the Community Partner Program here at Food Bank New York City. I oversee the Campus Pantry Program. So with this program, we partner with a spectrum of schools across the education spectrum. So that encompasses K-12 schools and colleges. Last year, we were able to partner with 79 schools citywide, and we distributed more than 1.2 million meals to over 20,000 students. So food insecurity at any stage is challenging, but if you're food insecure and you're a student, it can be particularly debilitating to your success. Today, we're going to engage in dialogue with stakeholders to learn more about how we're going to collaborate and address this issue. We're so proud that you can all join us today and help us move towards achieving more of a stronger food security for our college students. Okay. So before we begin, we're going to engage in a little bit of an activity. All right, so it's right here. Okay, so can everyone take out their phones? I have mine here. Yeah. So we're all going to play this game. Okay. All right, so what you're going to do, you can scan the QR code here, or there should be one over there. All right, so scan the QR code. Okay, so you're going to answer this question in one word. So in one word, what comes to mind when you think about college student hunger? Over. Not focus, sadness, unmotivating, okay. Unacceptable, worry, unfair, struggle. So yeah, so these are all, so as you can see, there isn't any right or wrong answer to describe, college student hunger. So as you can see, it's a very stressful situation for students to be involved in, and later on today, we're actually going to be hearing from students who've actually been experiencing food insecurity. So there's another question, so thank you for playing. All right, so the second question is, so what percentage of college students in New York City do you think are facing hunger? Okay, I see greater than 20%. Okay. Okay. That's all your answers. All right. Yeah. So the answer is greater than 20%, but our next speaker will be providing context to what these numbers mean and provide unique insight in terms of the solutions that we are going to be using to address this issue. So Dr. Nicholas Freudenberg is a distinguished professor of public health at CUNY School of Public Health in New York City. He's also the senior faculty fellow and founder of the CUNY Urban Food Policy Institute. So welcome, Dr. Nicholas Freudenberg.
Hello, it's a real honor and privilege to be here, and thank you all so much for being here. I started my work on food insecurity at CUNY, which in 2010, when the chancellor at the time asked me and my colleagues to find out why so many CUNY students were coming to events where free food was being distributed. And he was hearing that more and more people were showing up, and he wanted to know why. What we did is study a survey of a sample of CUNY students and found shockingly high rates of food insecurity, something that people at CUNY at that time didn't know. And this was probably a time when many of you were toddlers. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little about where things stand today around food insecurity. And can I have the next slide, please? So we, through Healthy CUNY and working with the CUNY Office of Institutional Research, have been doing periodic surveys of representative samples of students. And what I'm showing you here are the results from a survey in 2018, before the COVID pandemic, in 2020, at the start of the pandemic, and then at the bottom, some results from our most recent survey in fall 2022. And what they show is, as a result of the pandemic, there was a really staggering increase in food insecurity. The proportion of CUNY students who said they'd gone hungry, often or sometimes in the last year, went up from 13% to 18%. And look at that last bar, the proportion of students who said they worried about running out of food. That rate almost tripled. And I think we need to grasp the devastating effect the pandemic and the economic consequences have had on the lives of our students. And we're only beginning to address that devastation. What the numbers at the bottom show is, since the height of the pandemic, the rates of food insecurity have gone down a little bit. I'll show you some other recent numbers, but they're still way above what it was before the pandemic. And in this survey that we did in 2010, we were staggered by the high rates then, which were quite a bit lower than those previous rates. And this is a consequence of a city that has allowed poverty to increase, that has allowed income inequality to increase. So I want to be sure that we understand the problem of food insecurity at CUNY is located within the problem in New York City and the nation. Next slide, please. So this is a survey that was done by the CUNY Office of Institutional Research. It's called the Student Experience Survey. You can find it online. And it was a survey of, I think, about 9,000 students at almost all the CUNY campuses. And what that survey showed was that at the community colleges, the level of food insecurity, defined by a number of measures used by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, was 44%. At the four-year schools, 36%. And we need to note that difference and make sure that the CUNY efforts to address food insecurity reach those most in need, which is people in community college, students of color, low-income students, recent immigrants. Those are the groups at CUNY, women compared to men, who are experiencing higher rates. And the overall rate was about 38%. But the other thing to say, not shown as clearly, is that every CUNY campus and every sector of our society, some people are experiencing food insecurity. At the Graduate Center that educates PhD students, there's students struggling with food insecurity. And that's true at the four-year schools, at my school, the School of Public Health, and also at all the other campuses. Can we have the next slide, please? So in the work that I've been doing on food insecurity over the last decade and a half, I've become convinced that the most meaningful solution for reducing food insecurity is to enroll people who are eligible in SNAP in that. And I want to make that case. Food pantries are wonderful. We should have food pantries. They help people get through the day, and they provide a level of support. But food pantries will never, at CUNY or elsewhere, will never address the problem of food insecurity comprehensively. They don't have enough resources, they don't have enough space, they don't have enough food, they don't have enough staff. And so we need to look for more meaningful distinctions. And I'm hoping I'll convince you that this enrolling people in SNAP ought to be our priority, and using our food pantries both on campus and in the community to find out who's eligible for SNAP, not everybody is, and to enroll them. And so what we found was, I'll tell you a little about the work we're currently doing, and my team is here. I'm very happy to see the CUNY Cares team here, that we're doing in the Bronx to show what a different approach to meeting students' essential needs can look like. And we did a survey in fall 2022 of about 2,000 students enrolled at the 3 Bronx campuses, Hustos, Lehman, and Bronx Community College. Why the Bronx? We wished we had the resources to work at all 25 campuses, but we didn't. And we knew that both rates of poverty and ill health were highest in the Bronx, and we also had been working with folks there for a while. So we're starting there and hoping what we learn we can share with you, what you're learning at Medgar and other New York City Technical, other CUNY campuses, we can exchange, and together, as Walik just told me, when we're all together, that's when we win political victories. So what we found is that overall, about 30% of the students in the Bronx were eligible for SNAP, and the numbers were a little different at the different campuses. And then if we look at the next slide, these figures, to my mind, startle me every time I see them, and I've now looked at them a lot over the last year or two. We estimate, and these are best guess estimates. We think our estimates are better than anyone else's who's looked at this problem, but deciding who's eligible for SNAP, unfortunately, as many of you know, is a complicated process. So this is our best guess using the data we have on household finances and a few other things. 50% of Bronx students were eligible for SNAP last year. Of those eligible students, 60% were not enrolled in the program, an estimated 30% of the student population. In the Bronx, about 7,200 of the approximately 30,000 students enrolled at the 3 Bronx campuses. And listen to this. This is our challenge that I hope you'll take out going forward. Only 3% of students with SNAP reported that CUNY assisted them to enroll. And I'm hoping in the next year we can see that go to 10%, 20%, 50%, 80%. If CUNY helped all those to enroll in SNAP, it would bring an additional $25 million. $25 million, looking at the average benefit for a single household member, into the households of Bronx CUNY students. If CUNY helped to enroll half of those eligible, it would bring an additional $12.6 million into students' households. And so what we're doing, what this picture is showing, what CUNY is doing and what New York City is doing is leaving money on the table, leaving money that could support our students. And we could make the same comparison around Medicaid, around WIC, and enrolling students in the benefits for which they're eligible is a surefire way. And it's supported by the mayor and the governor because the public benefits are federal dollars. They like bringing federal dollars into New York. It's supported by the business community because people having SNAP and WIC means they can go to their local store and buy food and support economic growth. So it's a win-win, but we haven't done it at CUNY. And if one thing that excites me comes out of this meeting, it's that we'll determine to make that happen in the next year or two. Next slide, please. Again, from this survey, fewer than half the students reported being aware that there was food assistance resources on their campus. So that's low-hanging fruit. That's an easy victory. We need to go out and educate students about where the resources are on the campus and in the community. And the primary reason students gave for not using campus resources was not believing they were eligible. This is excluding those who said they didn't need it, lacking knowledge and resources about the availability and accessibility of SNAP, and feeling, this is again, makes me very sad. Feeling that other people needed food assistance more. Even though they said they were hungry and running out of food, they thought, well, other people need it more. I don't want to take it away. So that is a mentality that we need to change. And I think sometimes those of us doing work around food security emphasize too much stigma. Certainly stigma is a factor, but what we can do something about is removing the administrative barriers that our campuses, that CUNY, that HRA, that the USDA impose, removing those barriers to make it easy for anyone to enroll. That, in my mind, needs to be put on a par with addressing stigma. And there's a report we did on some policy recommendations. The link is there. I'm certainly happy to make these slides available in the website of this conference, and some of you might want to look at that. Next slide, please. But as all of you know, food insecurity doesn't stand alone. Students have a lot of problems. And again, through the survey we did in the Bronx in fall 2022, what we found is that more than half of CUNY students in the Bronx had 2 or more unmet needs. We defined 4 needs: for food security, for housing stability, a term we use to define anyone who has housing problems is housing unstable. It's a broader term than homelessness, and many more CUNY students are housing unstable than actually homeless. And if we can help someone who's housing unstable to address that problem, we prevent the disaster that homelessness can present. So 50% of CUNY students in the Bronx, and my guess is the numbers are not so different elsewhere, had 2 or more of these unmet needs. You know, you've probably all seen CUNY does a wonderful job of moving people into the middle class, moving people out of poverty, making productive, helping them to lead more productive lives, become civically engaged, all those wonderful things. But you may also know that only about 50% of the people who enroll in 2-year and 4-year schools actually graduate. So half the people who come to CUNY are losing the wonderful lifetime health, social, economic benefits that come from having a college degree, our degree, a CUNY degree. And what can we do together to ensure that that number goes from 50% to 60% to 80%? And one of the things we can do is help students meet their essential needs for housing, food security, healthcare, mental health. And I want to, next slide, please. Just say some of the things, and for many of you this is preaching to the converted. What are some of the things we can do in our campus food security programs? As I've said, we can help people enroll in SNAP and WIC, and we can troubleshoot for people who are actually enrolling. We can ensure that our food pantries have the hours open, the space, the staffing, and the supply of good food that they need. And there's more work to be done there, as all of you who work in those programs know. We can also work to ensure that our cafeterias and our vending machines are providing healthy, affordable food. Separately from the work I'm talking to you about today, a group of us are working to convince CUNY to end its pouring rights contract with Pepsi. CUNY now has a 10-year contract that expires at the end of 2023 that gives Pepsi the exclusive right to stock beverages in all CUNY cafeterias and all CUNY vending machines. And Pepsi, over 10 years, pays, I think, $20 million to CUNY for that right. But that money comes from the beverages that CUNY students are drinking that increase their risks for diabetes and heart disease. And that isn't right. A university shouldn't be making money by selling access to its students. So we're hoping some of you will join our campaign to convince the CUNY board to end this pouring rights contract and come up with a healthier way. And finally, nutrition and food education. And the last thing I want to talk about, next slide, is I'm sorry, next to last thing, some of the barriers to SNAP enrollment. And again, I'm saying this is our to-do list for the next period, that we should be taking on these barriers. And some of them are policy barriers at the national level, as the Congress, if it can ever meet, considers the Food and Farm Bill. We need to look at SNAP eligibility. And there are some groups advocating for improved eligibility for college students and easing some of those administrative barriers. And we also need to be working here in the city to ensure that HRA and other city agencies are doing all they can to make it easy to enroll in SNAP. So now the next slide. So what my colleagues sitting in that row back there, raise your hands, and the CUNY Cares team, and if some of you want to talk to them later about what we're doing, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions. So we're trying a new model of care in the Bronx that we hope to learn about, share, and get your feedback on. And the commitment we have from the chancellor is if we show in the Bronx over the next 3 years that we can improve retention and graduation rates by addressing students' essential needs, this model will then go to all 25 campuses. We're going to need your help in making that a reality. And what our program includes is students advising students. We hire students and pay them to be navigators and advocates to connect their peers to community and campus-based services. We are building capacity, helping to hire new staff at the campuses. We're very excited because we've just hired what we think is the first full-time person to work on housing issues at CUNY, to work on the 3 Bronx campuses, both to assist students facing housing instability to get help, and also to develop partnerships with housing providers. We'd love to share what we're learning, and we know here at Medgar Evers, you're doing a lot of great work in that area as well. We're establishing partnerships. We've had an ongoing dialogue with Health and Hospitals, another institution committed to equity in New York City, to make it easier for CUNY students who either don't have health insurance or aren't satisfied with what they have to get the primary health care and mental health care and sexual and reproductive health care they need at H&H. We're also working with Hunger Free America to bring their staff to our campuses and our students to their offices to help people enroll in SNAP, as well as with some local Bronx providers. We're trying to integrate academic initiatives with student service initiatives. We're helping prepare students who are working with us as advocates and navigators to get jobs when they graduate in the health and social services sector, and giving them the skills and credentials they need. CUNY has 50,000 students studying health and human services. We, in the work we're doing on our campuses, can be preparing those students to get good jobs. And that is our work around career success. And finally, we're doing a systematic evaluation. CUNY has invested a lot for a long time in student services. Many of you know about those services, but we've not done a very good job in evaluating the impact or tracking progress. And so we're hoping by doing a rigorous evaluation of CUNY Cares, we can see what works, what needs to be changed, and then we hope bring it to all campuses. And the last slide, I'd love to hear from some of you beyond this meeting. I hope you'll look at some of our resources. And thank you so much, and I look forward to continuing to work with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you for that data and those numbers, Nick. But there's real people behind those numbers. You know, we can show data, we can show numbers, but there are real stories behind those numbers. So we're going to highlight a video here, as I alluded to earlier, that the Transitional Academy just don't combat hunger here. We also combat homelessness, housing instability. And there are students here that come forward for their bravery to share their story so they can get other students from behind the shadows. And we're going to show a video here, and then we're going to dive more into the information.
I'm a junior at Medgar Evers College with a major in psychology. Juggling school with 2 children and being homeless was a traumatizing time. Once you have nowhere to live, you have no plan. Having limited food because I have nowhere to live. Even if I had money for food, there was nowhere to store the food. I felt really overwhelmed having to deal with so many things at one time. Yes, I felt hurt. Yes, I felt pain.
Good morning, Transition Academy. This is Margaret speaking. How can we help you?
But with the help of the Transition Academy, I was able to know that I had people on my side that would advocate for me. They honestly helped to save my life. I wouldn't be where I am today without the help of them. And I feel really honored to know that there's people that care. It's not just a job here.
Welcome.
It's people that's going to work hard, sun up to sundown, to make sure that you meet the needs to be successful in school. And it may be just giving out food to others, but for myself who had nothing, this is all I could turn to when I needed anything. I just want to say to them, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your compassionate hearts. Thank you for going above and beyond, and what you do is very important to students like myself.
So we do have Ms. Denasia Pittman with us. I'm going to ask her to stand. Let's give her a round of applause. Now, these is real stories behind the numbers. Sometimes we can look at numbers but not understand the story. This is the reason why we do the work that we do here at Medgar Evers College. We want our students to be successful. And there's many more out there, just like Ms. Pittman, that comes to us for the services. They no longer have to hide in the shadows. They can come to the Transitional Academy. They can get the resources that they need. And they know we're going to go to bat for them to make sure they achieve academic success. So I also have the honor to introduce another partner. I mentioned earlier that Medgar Evers College is one of the institutions that don't receive a lot of funding. So we rely on our external partners. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Robert Yancey, who I met in via phone 2017, when the Transition Academy came into existence. No resources, making phone calls, just trying to make connections. I called Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter, got Mr. Yancey, let him know what we were starting here, this population we was targeting. He said, I might have something for you. 3 years went by because I'm doing the work, he's doing the work. That 4th year, I get reconnected with Mr. Yancey. He said, Waleed, I want you to come aboard with a program we're trying to start. And just give us some ideas of the work that y'all doing at Transitional Academy, because you have a stable program there that I think your students can benefit from what we want to put together here. So what was created was the Neighborhood Coalition for Scholars, not shelters, which is a program that's housing Medgar Evers College students and other CUNY students to make sure they have some form of stability so they can focus more on the academics versus focusing on where they're going to get something to eat or where they're going to lay their head. Very important. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Yancey. Robert Yancey was appointed Chief Program Officer at Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter in 2016, previously serving as a Program Director at Neighborhood Coalition Shelter Lewis 9 Housings. Rob is a mentor for the Supportive Housing Network of New York's Ready Emerging Leadership in Supportive Housing, which is called Relish Mentorship Program. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Yancey.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Dr. Boone. Dr. Boone talked about how we connected at first. The position I have at the Neighborhood Coalition for Shelter is the Chief Program Officer and oversee all the programs there. So we provide housing for single adults, young adults that were formerly homeless and coming out the shelter systems, foster care systems, mental health programs, and inpatient mental health programs and substance abuse programs. So he gave me a call and he said he was looking to house one of his students. And I said, well, Leek, right now I don't have anything, and I will try to help you and get you connected with something, because we do things through referral through the city system. So that's how we kind of first met. A little bit about our agency. We've been around about 40 years doing work in shelters and homelessness, connecting New Yorkers that were either transitioning from shelters or homelessness into supportive housing and stable housing environments. So the face 40 years ago of homelessness were single men. And fast forward to today, that face has changed. It's single people, young people, families, people of color, people with mental health disorders, people with so many disabilities. So our agency was out there on the forefront. So we had heard about the crisis of homelessness amongst young people in public schools during the pandemic, right before when the pandemic started. So we said we needed to do something. We reached out to people that had done some research, like the Hope Center, who had some statistics on homelessness of people that were attending school, basically. We knew that we didn't have a lot of experience dealing with young people, older adults and young adults. We did have some experience, so we decided to target the college student population. So some of the stats that the Hope Center has, and this was a study that was done in 2020, and about 48% of the students have experienced housing insecurity. 14% have been affected by homelessness, and that's over a 12-month period. And if you look down, if you go a little deeper in the city system, there's about 14% of people that have experienced homelessness. 55% have housing insecurity over the previous year. And the number of students that CUNY has in its system is about 240,000. So if you take that number at those percentages, it's about 34,000 people that have experienced homelessness or either homeless while attending school. So we said that we needed to kind of really do something about this issue. We went to CUNY at large. We went to the city to see how we could partner. We got turned away because they thought we wanted money to kind of partner with them. The one thing about our agency, we're good about raising money and tackling problems. So what we came up with was a pilot program to house homeless college students or students that were at risk of homelessness. So the perfect person to connect with was with Dr. Boone. He had this program here at Medgar Evers College that had identified people that were housing insecure, that had things going on in their life, because we needed to kind of verify people with homelessness, that were homeless, and not bring people into the program that just wanted a better place to stay. And Dr. Boone does great work. You know, he's working endlessly with the individuals that attend here at Medgar Evers College. So what we were able to do was be able to raise funding to lease 23 units in a building in Queens. So in that building, it's a cohabiting space where people that live there share the apartments with individuals they don't know. So it was really perfect for what we wanted to do, because we didn't want the college students to be identified as homeless, right? So in this building, we have units that with 2, 3-bedroom apartments that the students share. And they're not identified as homeless college students. It's in Queens, right over the bridge. A really nice new development, has a lot of amenities. They share apartments, they share common space. They have their own bedroom. There's washer dryers, just a lot of things in that area that they can take advantage of. Right now, we do not charge a fee to these students. We are trying to remove barriers for them to get to where they need to be, and that's academic success. We do have some academic requirements that kind of mirror what CUNY is set forward. And we know with some people that going through school is not linear. You know, there's a lot of peaks and valleys there, right? So our program director has a lot of flexibility about applying policy and things that apply to the students in our program. So we have been fortunate to connect again with Dr. Boone and Transitions, and we house maybe about 15 students right now from Medgar Evers College. We are housing presently only students from CUNY. We have some residents that are from LaGuardia and Bronx community. What we found is that we run a young adult supportive housing program, and it's 46 young individuals that have their own apartments. They have leases and things like that, but there's a lot of things that go on in that building. So we were prepared to kind of face those same kind of challenges. And we were surprised that on the orientation, that the date of orientation, we orientated about 10 students. So they came, did orientation, then we gave them a view of the units. And you should have saw how their eyes lit up. And then we took them back down and we let them sign for their keys. And they wanted to move in that day. So, you know, it was a good feeling to be able to assist and support young people that had been committed and dedicated to their education and moving forward in their life with the challenge of not having a place, a stable, adequate environment to live and to study in. So we are looking forward to increase those numbers. We have maybe about 3 more units in that building. We're going to be looking forward for new spaces to kind of develop. We have been receiving a lot of inquiries about people that want to help, anonymous donors, because this issue is something that people don't really know, that people that are going to college don't have a place to stay. I know we talk a lot about food insecurity, but housing insecurity is a real problem here in the city. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Back to what I mentioned earlier, Medgar Evers College do not receive a lot of funding. So we always rely on our external partners. So I also would like to acknowledge the Petrie Foundation, who provide resources and funding to us to also support our students that might be behind in rent, also our pantry. So we're very grateful for the Petrie Foundation for your partnership as well. So we're going to bring on our keynote speaker. A few lines we're going to read about him. When we thought about our keynote speaker, we wanted a person who not only talks the talk, but also walks the walk. We wanted an educator and knows what you are going through because he literally has been in your shoes. He's going to talk about his own personal experience with food insecurity and how his profession empowered high school students to ensure they had the critical resources they need to succeed. Well, that reminds us of us here at Medgar Evers College family in CUNY. He currently is a principal at Westside High School. Help me to welcome Principal Akbar Cook, a brother from another mother. We're doing the same work.
Check. Good morning, everyone. Gotta say that again, get my principal voice. Good morning, everyone. As the gentleman said, I'm Principal Akbar Cook. First, I want to give the Food Bank of New York, thank you. Medgar Evers College, thank you as well for having me. Principal, Newark, New Jersey, right across the water. Humble beginnings. My grandmother always was a caretaker to the less fortunate. Even though she had a lot of grandkids, she found a way to go adopt some more babies. So that's why I feel like it's in my DNA. My education background came from my auntie. We all have an auntie. My auntie was Carolyn Cook. Auntie got me to work at a camp called Life Camp. And at this camp, it's like I became the kid whisperer. Like I knew what the babies were saying. I could figure them out. So while I'm at this camp, I ended up going to a junior college in Kentucky, rural Kentucky. I don't know if you guys been to Kentucky, but I'm not talking about Louisville or Lexington. I was in between tobacco fields, and it was 2 buildings. This is when I learned that food security was real. So we had 2 buildings, as I said, but we had to eat when the nuns or the sisters ate. So you literally had to get up in the morning at 8, you maybe got around lunchtime at 12, and then you guys had to eat like around 5 o'clock. So now as a Division I athlete, that's kind of hard. So I'm just like, I'm missing meals and all of that, and I'm starving. So I called my auntie. I said, Auntie, I need some money. Auntie said, boy, don't you ever call me without asking how I'm doing, how I'm feeling, how everything is going. So from then on, I always called Auntie a week before I needed some money so I could get the stuff, right? I finished out in the junior college, and I ended up going to Florida Atlantic University, Final Four, they just did the Final Four just now. Went down to Florida Atlantic, and now I'm on a bigger campus. I'm in Boca Raton, guys. It is beautiful. You thinking now I'm gonna have all these different restaurants? No, it was not the case. So same thing goes, and now you're on a larger campus. So when we think about our kids in college and them eating, it's kind of hard if you're doing like 6 a.m.s, and then you got the lunch, and then you sleep, and you got night classes. So I realized it was real right then and there. And another thing that came to fruition was a lot of us don't know about financial, not financial security, I'm sorry, it's escaping me right now, but we don't have that financial literacy background. So when I got to the Division I college, they give you a meal plan. They say, here, Cook, here goes $2,500. You have to figure out how to eat with that for the entire semester. Now, I'm a baby right out the hood. I went right and took that money, went to the mall, got me some shoes, I got some more other stuff. So you're not supposed to give me some money. So it took me a while to figure it out. I want to say by my senior year, I started going to Costco and maybe putting some stuff under my bed in my room so my roommates wouldn't eat it. But I ended up graduating, guys, and I became a teacher. And while I was a teacher, some of the things changed. Like you always know, you guys been in school, we always get to the babies through food. Like, oh, I got my principal coming. Yeah, I'll be good. I'm gonna give you a pizza party. So you know how we did it, right? And you guys would do all your good stuff like that. But until I became a vice principal is when I realized the needs were stronger. I became a vice principal at Newark Vocational, and after 4 or 5 years, it was going smooth. And then, just like some districts do, they said, Cook, we're gonna close your school. And I'm like, why? We got the best enrollment. I got all the good stuff going on for the kids. They say, well, there's a school up the street called Westside High School, and it's the worst school in the state of New Jersey. It's riddled with gangs, it's violence. They just slapped the principal. So we think you guys would be a good fit up there. And at the time, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So we end up going to this school, and I want to say the first week, guys, one of my baby girls was missing. First time ever, I told you, I'm coming from, middle school babies all the way up to high school, and the baby was missing. I want to say around 2 weeks, they found her body in an abandoned building. My first bout with death. So I'm trying to figure out these kids, they don't know us, but I know if you love on them and you be consistent, you fair, you'll figure it out, but that sent shockwaves through the school. So trying to push kids in rooms and stuff, Cook, you trying to get us in the room, the teachers ain't teaching. So we got to listen to all of that. And we started to right the ship because they saw we wasn't letting up. And I want to say about midway through that year, they kidnapped one of my 15-year-old boys. I know this stuff is sounding like a movie. It was like a movie that I was living to me. And that 15-year-old boy, he was supposedly the plug for all of the good drugs in the area. When he didn't give up his plug, his connect, they killed this young man and threw his body in the neighborhood. That was 2 babies, y'all, my first year at the school. The summer came up, and I felt so helpless. I felt like everything in my area was either my kids were doing it or was happening to my kids, one of the most helpless times I ever felt. I vowed that I would never feel that way again. So we get back to school, better teachers, the kids know us, we righted the ship, and everything is going smooth. All right, we're getting down to business. I had one kid, guys, and I tell this story all the time about, they say the gangsters don't come to school. They don't look their mother, daddy, grandma, auntie in the face and say, I ain't going, ain't nothing you can do about it. They just go to the streets. But I had this one baby, ankle bracelet on every day, cops coming, I want to say every 2 or 3 days. And it's like, you know, a big show every time they come. I went up to him, I'm like, bro, like what's going on? He said, Cook, man, my mama gonna see me walk across that stage. She deserved it. I put her through too much. I felt him. They killed that baby 2 weeks before graduation in a drive-by shooting. That's 3. So now the summer's here, and I'm like, I can't sit back and watch this again. I have to do something. So I'm a Boys and Girls Club kid. I said, you know what? I'm going to open up my building. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I was going to create a type of camp. I said, I'm going to open up my building Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., and I'm just going to love on them. I'm going to feed them, and I'm just going to give them some recreation, let them be kids. I had no idea what it was going to look like. First night, I want to say we had 40 people come out, right? 40 people, and it was a weird mix of people. It was like, I had like parents, I had like 25-year-old gangbangers and 8-year-olds. The weirdest mix you ever see, like this, right? But they were there. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna feed them, we're gonna do all that stuff. And at the time, the food I was given wasn't the best meals. If you guys remember free lunch, we got them little packs, you rip it open, there's a string of cheese, some maybe celery and a chicken salad sandwich. Wasn't the best meals. But definitely on chicken salad night, I had to go down to, I would take the meals that weren't eating and I'd take it down to the Penn Station and I would feed the homeless, right? So doing this, the first night, 40, then I get 50, and then a gentleman, he did a article. And he said, oh, you should guys see what this young man is doing in the city of Newark to combat all the stuff that's going on in the city. When that article went out, we started getting more kids and just more adults. And it was a beautiful thing. That whole summer, I want to say we was averaging about 120-some people. And the summer ended, and I was like, yes, nothing happened. I was so excited. And it was like right around Labor Day. I'm like, you know what? I got to throw a party. And I'm going to have all the food trucks, all this stuff. So I did it. And we had like 278 people came out. I want to say ice cream trucks, DJs. I was giving out anything that wasn't stolen. Here's a Keurig machine for you. Here's a vacuum cleaner for you. Loving it. One of my baby girls, freshman, she came up to me, gave me a high five. She got some ice cream, and she left. Later on that night, she was killed by a stray bullet. 4 babies. It kind of drove home the point 2 things for me. One, you can't wait until the summer to save them, because this was after the summer, right? You got to do something. And more, I need to do something for the girls. So after that, we started doing all these amazing things that you'll hear about if you read the bio and things of that nature. But ever since then, 2016, 2017, we haven't lost any more kids to gun violence at all. So now the baby's safe, right? That's because I said some stuff got to take a back seat. We're talking about food security, but if your babies are not safe, you got to figure something out, right? So now came the next thing. The kids said, Cook, we're not eating. I'm like, okay. And this is my first time hearing the word parentified. Like a lot of my babies are taking care of their younger siblings. Their parents are either not there or they work in so many odd jobs, they leave it up to them to do that. So by the time they take their kids to school and they get to us, it's so many late they done miss breakfast. I said, that's easy, I got that. I don't care if there's a Pop-Tart at the door waiting on you, you're gonna eat something. I'm gonna make sure you're good, right? Did that. My school is 100% free and reduced lunch, so that means they eat lunch, right? But I want you guys to think about lunch. Like, we all go to restaurants and we go out to different places, and there's always some salt and pepper at the table. There might be some hot sauce. Well, our little kids just got to get whatever that cafeteria person slop on the tray, and they got to eat it. So I'm like, you know what? I can fix that. My baby's not eating. I get some hot sauce or some adobo, soy sauce. You know, I'm going to do all of that for the babies. Just make sure they're good. So now they're eating. Cool. But I said, Cook, we don't eat on weekends. All right. Okay. So I got with my community food bank in New Jersey. And I said, listen, do y'all got something for me? They said, well, Cook, we have a family pack program where the parents sign up and it'd be enough food for a family of 4. I'm like, cool. I got all my parents to sign up and do all of this great stuff. And then came that first day. I called the babies downstairs. Kids came downstairs, we gave them lunch packs. As soon as they get outside, oh, you the kid with the free food, ah. And I'm like, your mother called me too. Why are you making fun of him? Like, you need it as well, right? So I'm like, I don't know why you're doing that, but it's a cultural thing where we try to make fun of things of that nature. So I'm like, okay. So I changed the name. The attendance all-stars come downstairs. Oh, you still that kid that need the food. So then I used some of the backpacks that we didn't give out for the backpack giveaway, trying to hide it. I went to the mall, Aeropostale, Gap bags, trying to hide it. Again, it was just a Band-Aid. We wasn't getting to the root of the problem, which is we got to change the mindset of these kids. So I was like, what can I do? What can I do? Well, as you can see, I like to eat. I'm a Food and Network guy, right? I'm a Food Network. So I was like, you know what? They got a show called Chopped. I'm going to get me a YouTube channel. I'm going to do West Side Chopped. I'm going to show the babies what to do with these amazing ingredients. If you don't watch Chopped, they're taking mystery ingredients and they got to cook a meal, right? So, cool. The first episode, I had to cancel it after 2. I didn't have the funding, but you get it, what I'm saying, right? So, but after the first, on the first episode, I'm going to give you guys the mystery ingredients. I know some of you guys are like, you can cook. They had, in the family pack, they had tuna fish, they had ragu, mixed vegetables, and Cheerios. And not even the Honey Nut Cheerios, regular plain Cheerios. So I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do with this basket. So we're going to see. One person crunched up the Cheerios, made into breadcrumbs, and Biden agent put some eggs with the tuna fish, made them little crab tuna fish cake. Bam, threw some ragu on top, mixed vegetables. Bam. I said, look at God, right? Oh, what? My babies took to it like it was no other. So they like, oh, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with my basket now. So now we took something that was, the food insecurity and something pride related, and we changed it to something positive. So now, not only do my kids get, I want to say, we call it acts of kindness, they get certificates and stuff, but they also taking care of our neighbors with our homes. They're taking care of other families. So now we made it a thing. So that was another thing, right, that was solved, right? Cool. I'm cool with the food. Then it becomes, but cook, your kids are not coming to school. I'm like, what do you mean? They said 85% of your children are staying home 4 to 5 days a month. You guys know when we grew up, you missed 19 days, you stayed back, that was it. It's not the case now. So I'm like starting to get into the root of it, and come to find out, they were talking about the uniforms. Now I'm not a big uniform guy, I kind of flip-flop from time to time. But when you think about uniforms, guys, they give the kids, say, khakis. Khakis get dirty just looking at them. Right on the hanger. The khakis dirty right now, you didn't even put it on. And I'm gonna put this on a 5-year-old, let them ride around on the floor? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I was like, you know what? I got something. I'm gonna change the colors, right? I'm gonna change the colors. I put on black khakis, heather gray, change the different color of the shirts. Still wasn't getting the numbers that I expect. I'm like, but what's going on? They're like, cook, we can't clean our clothes. I'm like, all right, okay, I got something for that. So at the time, I was meeting with my alumni. My alumni have some great people on the board with them, and one of them was our local energy company. You guys have Con Edison, we have PSE&G. So PSE&G was there. I said, okay, hey guys, listen, I want to get some washers and dryers, and I'm just going to put it in my school. Can you guys help me out? They said, Cook, write us a grant, and we will give you some money. Cool, right? I wrote the worst grant in history. It said, I need washers and dryers, period. That was it. Send. They gave me $20,000, guys. Yeah, baby, right? I get the $20,000, I come back to my district like, oh, we about to cash out. Send me to Lowe's, Home Depot, I'm about to get all of the best of the best. They're like, okay, Cook, we're gonna send over our architects and all that other stuff. District come back and say, Cook, it's gonna cost you $300,000 to put this laundry room in your school. Come on, I know the price in New York is crazy, guys, but $300,000, I'll give me something nice right here in Brooklyn, right? I said, okay, but now it's getting bad, guys, because now my babies are being bullied. They're fighting because of the bullying and things of that nature. So I'm like, guys, listen, we gotta figure this out. So my district said, Cook, it's all about venting out. If you can find a place that vents out so we can send the dryer out, we got you. So, just like in this college and other schools across the nation, we usually is one wash and dryer, either for the linens, for the football team. Mine was for the football team, right? Immediately kicked them out the locker room, gone. It was 2017. I haven't won a football game since, I think, too. So, but I kicked my football guys out, right? Kicked them out. Bam, I think we got it. So I got them out. It was venting out. So now they came and they put the wash and dryers in. Then it became, but who's paying for the water bill? Who's paying for the electricity? So now I just become the principal. I was the vice principal all of that time, guys. And I just become the principal. And I'm like, what are we going to do, right? Because now they hooked up, but no one's going to, we can't use them. So I was doing a tour of my Lights On program. Other principals come by and they want to see what we're doing so they can emulate what we're doing. So someone took a picture of me in front of the wash and dry. I said, oh my God. And they said those magical words, principal combats bullying, attendance, and all these good things for the babies, right? Went viral. Every news channel called me. I want to say every channel, 2, 3, I was on Telemundo, everything. Everything called, right? I called my superintendent. I said, guess what, man? On Monday, I'm going to be on TV, right? You going to be on TV as well because you ain't hooked up these washers and dryers. What you say? They was hooked up in an hour, right? Done. Right? So, again, I'm on TV that morning and all day, and I'm going to do like you. I'm going to film myself. I'm going to put it on Facebook. And at the time, it wasn't Reels yet. It was still 59 seconds on Instagram. And I was like, you know, Cook, should I put it on there? It's only 59 seconds. I said, well, they'll get the gist of it. Luckily, I did that because that clip I put on Instagram made its way all the way to Burbank, California. And that's when I got the call from my friend Ellen, right? So Ellen DeGeneres called. And guys, listen, I thought that this would be an amazing thing, right? I thought that we would, me and some other educators, right? We would be on the cover of Time saying, look what these people are doing to fight, you know, attendance, food insecurity, all that good stuff. Not the Ellen show, right? But they called. So when I get there, y'all got to tell me my time. I'm just talking. I don't know where I'm at right now, but all right, because I ain't got that much. But so I get to Burbank, and Ellen's like the Wizard of Oz. You don't see her at all. She's just like somewhere over there, right? So I'm there, and the producers take me in the back, and they say, all right, let's go over some questions. I'm like, cool. First question, I mess up. All right, I'll get it. Let's go. Second question, I mess up. They're like, yo, what you doing, man? I said, I'm nervous, man. He says 50 million people watching, man. You can't be messing up. I'm like, if you was coaching me, you're doing a bad job because I'm even more nervous now, right? So we go through that. One of the questions was that, Cook, please don't mention the babies passing away. It was like, you know, Ellen crowds, they may not be able to take it. I said, cool, got it. Asked me another question, cool. And it's like, but now, lastly, like, sometimes Ellen's like the freestyle. So just be prepared, cool. All right, now I'm ready, guys, right? Now they take me out the room, you hear them now. Hear the crowd, I'm like, oh my God, right? So now I go backstage, and if you read my story or you read up on me, I've been on Ellen 3 times, right? And it's a beautiful thing, right? 3 times. But it seems like every time I go, they have this like hunk ahead of me. And I don't know why, right? First time was Colin Jost, like you know, SNL, right? Then it was Mark Wahlberg, like, okay, Marky Mark, right? You know, great guy. And then they had John Mayer, this 6'4", beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed. I'm like, why are they like getting me to like, I don't know, like, are you trying to send me subliminal messages or what? But okay, cool, back to my segment. So now, I'm there, and they like, okay, all right, you ready? And I'm nervous, guys. There's 4 chairs here. They was like, you wouldn't believe who sat in these 4 chairs. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm about to fall on these 4 chairs, right? So it's my segment. I'm right there, back there. Colin Joseph, one of them pretty dudes, just walked by, and then they played my segment. And on the segment, I talked to my kids about family, right? And we use the acronym. It says, "Forget about me, I love you," right? And what that means is, give you just a quick a definition. I'm a coach, right? I coach high school basketball. At the end of the day, I'm supposed to just game 10 o'clock at night. I'm just supposed to just let the babies just go home while I drive away in my car. They on the corner, you know, like, no, forget about me and all that other stuff. I'm gonna make sure that you get home. That's what it meant. So that baby said it. I'm like, oh my God, they listening, right? So now I got this like teary eye, and they said, and now introducing Principal Akbar Cook. And I just knew, guys, I was going to have the smoothest walk on the plane. I thought it was going to be like Billy D or Denzel Washington. I thought I was going to just come out so smooth. Man, I had jelly legs. I probably had the fastest time to Ellen in the history of the show. I got to Ellen. We sat down, right? We started talking. The first question, nothing to do with anything we talked about. I'm like, okay, cool. Then she said, but then you lose 4 kids? And I'm like, am I being punked? Y'all just tell me backstage that I wasn't supposed to do this? And it was like, but the story went on, and her best friend took me backstage after the segment. He was like, Cook, man, that energy between you guys. I don't know if you guys know, when people be doing shows, they be sitting there, they talking. They said the whole time you was just looking at Ellen. She felt that energy, and she kept you longer. And at the end of it, guys, she gave me $50,000, right? For the school, right? But what I was so happy about and emotional was because you always see the stars, the basketball players, football players getting recognized, and they was recognized the work that some of us educators do every day. All I was doing what I'm supposed to do, right? Loving on these kids and removing barriers. So when they gave me that $50 check, I'm glad they cut the commercial break, because I was starting to cry, and I was gonna have that Michael Jordan meme, and my kids was gonna have me all over social media, right? We get back home. When I say it was islands, and Malta is in the Mediterranean Sea. It was people from all over the country sending us all type of donations, right? It was, I'm talking about laundry detergent out the wazoo. It was everywhere, right? So Procter & Gamble, you gotta know, make everything. Procter & Gamble, P&G makes everything. P&G got wind of the story, they sent me 1,000 everything. Here comes Arm & Hammer OxyClean. What? They sent you 1,000 everything. Here go 2,000 of everything. Bam. Here come Colgate and Palmolive. They sent you 2,000. We gonna send you 3,000 of everything. I said, hold up, guys. Can we switch it now? Let's talk about some feminine products for my girls. Let's talk about some toiletries, right? Some toothpaste, some deodorant, soap. So now, since it's happened, I wanted to tell you the story. Since this happened, I was able to get so many different pantries in me. I have my own food pantry now for the babies. They can go anytime they want to, right? I have a toiletry pantry, so kids never have to go without. Because you think about how prideful you feel like you're smelling, or you have all these things going on. So they got toiletry pantry with all these feminine products for my girls. And my girls pick them out. And now Cook, choose this one. I'm like, girl, it was a lady you could have did this with, but they still got me do it. Toiletry pantry, and now our last thing, we have a baby pantry. So for my babies that have babies, but also for families that are in my neighborhood that need to come and get some Pampers and things of that nature. So we've been doing that, right? Yes. Leads me to my work now. So what I've been doing through the grace of God, just been going around and mentoring principals. And I say, you gotta love on. If we get back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you gotta make sure these babies are fed, right? That's first and foremost. So I make sure any school that I'm working with, I'm in 20 schools in New York City, I think 2 in LA and 2 in Vegas, but the point is, the first thing they have to do is they have to put a food pantry in there. You can't tell me you care about kids, you don't have a food pantry. And generally, that food pantry is for the families and sometimes the staff. My staff get some of my food. You think teachers are doing good, they're struggling as well. So I make sure they have a food pantry, but I also try to say at least once or 2 times a year, you do a community giveaway. What I mean by community giveaway, you set up outside and anybody walking by can get some of the items that you have. And I want to thank the Food Bank of New York. One of my schools that I work with, Dr. Otto, is in East New York, Brooklyn, and Vista. You guys go out there every, I want to say, first or second Tuesday of the month, and you guys help them do their community. So I thank you for that. But that's what I'm doing now, guys. And I always want you, don't forget about those high school kids, right? Or the college babies. They think that once you sent them on, they're good. They're not. They're struggling behind doors. Depression is real, especially after COVID. We always got to love them and make sure they're good. Leave you with one thing. My grandma always told me this African proverb. It says, a candle doesn't lose its flame by lighting other candles. Keep lighting candles. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Principal Akbar, for sharing your personal testimony and all the work that you're doing. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, so you can pause to go to the restroom, grab a bite to eat, and we'll be back here in 10 minutes. Okay?
We know the makeup of our students, that they come from mostly immigrant, if not first generation themselves, college students, and people who are working multiple jobs to get their way through. And we started to hear from our students that they needed help. They needed more support, and they thought that a food pantry could do that.
Hi, thank you for calling Purple Apron Pantry.
It was like a relief. It's like knowing that there's food that we can use, and like going out to buy the same food item is gonna cost like so much money.
Students were like, I have $200 to make it through the week. but they have to pay for a Metro card, they have to pay their credit card bill, their phone bill.
It was overwhelming. It was an overwhelming feeling, not knowing what you're gonna eat next, not knowing if you can eat, like going to sleep hungry.
It's just weight, it's just stress. If you want your students to succeed, they cannot be taking, classes that are super complicated and then having to leave class and think, can I buy a bag of chips and will that time me over until 9 o'clock and then I'll just go to sleep hungry. That is unacceptable.
Having the food bank when I needed it, it feels like I feel grateful. To the people who are donating, I just want to say thank you for donating. I worked to get my bachelor's. I got my bachelor's. And now I'm ready for the next stop, which is to get like a full-time job.
These students are here because they want it, because they need it, because they're trying to make a generational difference in their families.
And you're helping them by providing them this food, and then this is what is gonna make the next generation stronger.
Okay, as you can see, this video really shed light on how challenging it can be for a student who's experiencing food insecurity. We're getting ready to introduce our panel shortly. Where are we gonna go? What are we going?
I don't know how you read to the
Okay, great. So in order to really understand this issue, we brought together a team of amazing people who are on the front lines. We're going to engage in an honest conversation of what this looks like on the ground. So this panel of pantry managers and students is going to be moderated by Deborah Hart, Dr. Deborah Hart. Dr. Deborah Hart boasts 4 decades of experience in social work and human services and is a passionate advocate for student services. Take it away, Dr. Hart.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to present this distinguished panel of managers and students to share with you their experiences and their perspectives on food security. So we're going to jump right into it. And I'm actually going to start with the students so that we can hear their perspective and their experiences. And so to Taylor and to Kamaya, say that right? Yeah. Thank you for being with us today and willing to share. I know Taylor's missing some of her clinical work. So can we just give them a round of applause for just kind of being here with us and being willing to share their experiences. So can you tell us, please share your ways that the institution helped you to overcome challenges with food security? What has the institution done that you attend? Taylor, you can start.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm a single mom, and I was facing, I thought some challenges. Sometimes you kind of, in the midst of the stress, forget what's in front of you. And I came to school as an intern and was like, oh, hold on, you got food here at the school. There's no need to worry about anything. Honestly, as a student at Medgar Evers, we have the opportunity to go shopping once a week, every week, as long as we're registered for the semester. So I just told myself that I was gonna shop at the school after I went from classes, and I was gonna take whatever I had and I made it work. And honestly, it was a very rough time, but I learned to use my resources on campus, and I shared the information with my other classmates and my other students because this was my first time facing food insecurity issues. I'd had problems with my mom being a young girl, so I knew what it was to be embarrassed, to be ashamed, to ask for help, and I'm very emotional because it was a time in my life when the word speaks for itself. You're transitioning, you know, through higher education. Things are very tough. You're adjusting, and you don't know how real it's gonna get until it gets real. So I'm so thankful to my forever director, Dr. Wally Boone. When I came to him just to tell him about my problems, he really kind of gave me every option I had and more. And I didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like, it was available to me, but I told myself I was going to use the resources here and I was going to make it work, and I did. And I went shopping every week, and I told my classmates, and then my classmates was coming, and then I was bringing like 12 people with me, and everybody was just coming and getting food because I was letting them know it was no reason to be embarrassed because the resources was ours to have. So come and use them.
Absolutely. And so, Kamai, can you add your experience?
I agree with Taylor, like with Dr. Boone. Last March, I was having troubles at home, and I didn't tell anybody about it. I just was thugging it out. So Dr. Boone, Miss Lisa, she's the director of the Women's Center here at Medgar. I spoke to her about it, and she recommended Dr. Boone, and it took me months to go to him because I was very prideful about it and didn't want to speak. But once I went to him, he made me feel at home, felt like I wasn't a burden on anybody, and really helped me with my support.
Wonderful. And so, what do you think you need to be successful, and how has the pantry helped you in doing that?
To be successful, really, is just the support. Like, not having support is, you start to think bad thoughts, like, I'm gonna drop out, I'm not good for this, I need to get a job, I don't have time for school. So with that support, it helps, it really does help.
Wonderful. Taylor?
To add on to what Kamaya was saying, I can definitely say support is it gets very tough when you're focusing or worrying about where you're going to get food or where you're going to sleep. So just to know that we didn't have to worry about that as students on campus, it was very helpful to us. I didn't have to worry. I was focused on my assignments. I was getting them in time. And overall, just to share the information about the pantry, because a lot of students don't know sometimes, not saying that the information is not here, but a lot of times we are caught up in our own lives. So just sharing the information was my support also, you know what I mean, to my classmates.
Yeah. And you know, to that point, Taylor, how big of an issue do you think food insecurity is, or food access to other students is?
Oh, it's a big issue. Just as, I'm sorry, the gentleman, Nick Ferguson, if I'm saying it right, Freudenberg, when he was saying about the numbers and how it increased over the pandemic, I definitely can say a lot of things happen behind doors, you know, and even though we are in a space where we do have conversations about it, people are still embarrassed. So just knowing that there are a lot of students out there that are not speaking about it as an issue overall, you know, because we don't know what the numbers can be, you know, and it could be more severe than what we're even expecting. So it's an issue that that needs to be dealt with.
And Kamaya, have you experienced many of your fellow students who are experiencing food insecurity, and have you informed them about pantries?
That I know of, no. But I just feel like they should know, just because even if they don't need it, the exposure needs to be there.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm going to ask each of you individually, what are you studying? And what are your career goals and your professional aspirations after you've left college? Taylor?
So I'm a social work intern right now. I am at Hunter's Silverman School of Social Work in my graduate program. My goals are to graduate,
Yep.
class 2024. I hope to pass my board exam, and my professional aspirations will be to open a nonprofit in my neighborhood right now, which is Sheepshead Bay, but also anywhere social services is at is really something I want to do for the rest of my life.
Wonderful. Great career. Great career. And how about you, Camille?
Well, I'm a sophomore here at Medgar, and I'm majoring in public administration. And I want to, with that degree, I want to run for city council.
Nice. Very good.
And I also want to help troubled Black and Latino teens and communities to get the essentials that they need.
That's a wonderful aspiration. Very, very good. You know, in the audience today and throughout this program, we've had some tremendous leaders and decision makers. I wonder if you have an opportunity to say something to them. What is it that you'd want them to take away from this experience today? What would you want them to know concretely?
That these pantries really help your students. Like I can't stress it enough. I get so emotional thinking about it because I know what it's like to be hungry. And just to stop that hunger, you have no idea. You know what I mean? Like the burdens that you take off our backs when you do those kind of things. And I just commend everybody who's continuing to make sure that the students at CUNY and all over New York City are continuing to get, the resources that we need to succeed through higher education, because it is true that when we are worried about where we're going to sleep and where we're going to eat, we don't want to come to school. We are not focused on our assignments, and we are depressed. We are going through a whole bunch of things, and it is very important to just know that you can come to a place to get a meal, which is essential.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yep. How about you?
What I hope everyone leaves here with is just the exposure. Like I said earlier, just knowing about the program helps everybody and others.
Thank you. And so we've come to the final session of with our students, and I'm wondering if you have any last-minute thoughts, any last-minute words that you'd like to give to your fellow peers, your students who might be in our audience, about the resources and about the ways that they may be able to get assistance on the campus.
I just want to say, ask for help. That's the least that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
The worst anybody could say is no. So yeah.
And to add on to that, as well as ask for help, to not be embarrassed. Sometimes it's important to be the first person to make the move. You'll be surprised that when you say something, 20 more people come behind you. You know what I mean? And tell you that they got a problem too. So I'm that kind of person. I'm into sharing. When I enter the room, I make it my room. I want everybody to know that I'm on one accord and we're all together. So continue to make communities, you guys. As students on campus, be open-minded to everybody is not going through the same thing that you're going through, but they possibly can be, So just share some things sometimes. And if you know any information, share it as well.
That's right. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you being here. And so, for Rhonda and for Rain, Rhonda being the manager, the director at LaGuardia Community College, known for many years, doing an excellent job over there. And Rain is also working at Bronx Community College, doing a tremendous, tremendous job holding up the fort over there. And I could tell you, as a frontline manager, I've been at BMCC for 14 years doing this work, and I am acutely aware of the impact of having a pantry on the campus and what it does for our students. In any given day, we're providing anywhere between 70 and 100 students with pantry bags. We're there 5 days a week from 8 to 6. So I wonder if you can tell us why it's impactful to provide food pantry to students and their families, and how does the pantry affect the different aspects of a student's life?
Great question. It's important in how it impacts a student's life is because if you're hungry, you cannot focus. We all know that. And a student will come in hungry and want food to take home to their children. So I can offer you something on campus, but if my children ain't getting fed at home, then what am I really doing? So having the pantries with foods that they can take home and feed their family puts them at ease. And the impact is they stay in school. They don't have to stop working.
For me, I think the food pantry is very important because it adds to the economy. The goal of higher education is to educate students and with that education, empower them to be self-sufficient and take care of them and their families. And there's a gap when they cannot do that because they are food insecure. And so the food pantry is a much broader impact and influence because we're talking about being an aid, a tool, a resource, and assistance to help and to undergird higher education as they educate students. So we are a very important part of that dynamic and that journey for students.
Yeah. And I think that you know all too well that many of our students are reluctant to come forward although I have to be honest, at BMCC, I think I'm seeing a little less because of this economy and because folks cannot afford to go to the grocery store. I'm seeing a little less stigma, but it still exists. Can you just address the fear or the stigma that students experience and what strategies or tools you're using to ensure that students come to use the pantry?
It's interesting that individuals have this notion that there is something that's going to be required of you if you offer food for free. And when we have the conversations with students and we tell them it's free, well, what do I have to do for it? You have to show up and ask. That's it? Yes, that's it. And so once you get past that barrier, then there is the stigma of, I don't want anyone to see me actually taking food from the pantry. And so I think that at LaGuardia, we've been really fortunate to strategically place the pantry where it's among classrooms. The hours are convenient to the students. We have online ordering for the students. We have these cute bags, and we have students volunteering in the pantry that also are recipients of the pantry. So it's peer-to-peer conversations, it's peer-to-peer advocacy, it's peer-to-peer outreach. Because, of course, if you study marketing, you know anything about marketing, you purchase based on what looks like you. And so the pantry must reflect what looks like the students that we serve. And so that's a way to, to help that myth about, oh, I can't use it, and then the various cultures and backgrounds and things like that. But the pantry has to look like the students in which we serve.
Absolutely, Reen.
I would just say I challenge students when they tell me, oh, I don't want a bag, I don't need a bag. I said, call your mother. Call the person in your house right now, tell them I'm giving away eggs, chicken, fresh produce, and I want to hear them tell me you don't need it. And I had a few students that called their mother, and it was like, get that bag. To where now they bring their parents with them to the pantry. But one of the things that we did as a suggestion from actually Food Bank was we did the Healthy Cart Initiative, where we put in a building on a floor some snacks that students can come and grab and go. So we have oatmeal, granola bars, non-heat meals, just things that juice boxes, milk, cereals, things that they can grab and go, because when they're hungry, that's the first part. You're hungry now, not later, you're hungry now. Right. So breaking that wall down to get them to come to that. And I'm like, oh, well, we have a pantry too. You could come on this day with your bags. And at pantry, what we try to do so they don't feel like they're waiting online outside is we give away smoothies. Sometimes we'll make smoothies right there for them and serve them. We'll do coffee and tea to make it inviting. The other thing that we did is we got the Food and Nutrition Club involved from our campus, where they created recipes based on the products that were given out in the pantry. So one of the things, they make a delicious black bean burger, oh my God. So they would make the burger and then give out samples.
Nice.
And the students were like, oh wait, I can make this, and they showed them how. So those are the ways we try to get around some of the stigma.
Wonderful. And so beyond food, what are some of the most important services that you also offer?
I would say our legal services with housing insecurities, which was spoken about earlier, and financial literacy, and SNAP, registering students for SNAP, or some of the other services. At BCC, we try to do a holistic approach, so that we're not just battling one concern, we're battling all your concerns at once, so that you can focus and retain your education path.
Yeah. And I know, it's interesting because the same at BMCC, and we heard it earlier, that it's not a one-off in terms of the needs of our students. It's many, many services that the students come to us needing. I mean, my resident manager is here. Some of you may know that we have housing, BMCC has housing for 40 of our students who are housing insecure. So it's the emergency grants that, thanks to Petrie, Food Bank for New York, all of these organizations that just are so supportive of the work that we do. Rhonda, what are the other things that you're doing?
Well, you mentioned most of them. I mean, we're proud of our external partners that we have as well. So we have partnerships like Airbnb to help combat the housing initiative. We also work with NCS and the emergency fund. Like, our school is very supportive about providing LaGuardia Cares with an operational budget, and I will talk about that in a little bit. But that helps us to focus on what is trending at this particular time. And I say that because since I've been at LaGuardia, and it's been a little over 10 years, the top 3 things are housing, food, and transportation. However, whatever is happening in the economy affects the students, and it happens with position and how that unmet need should be addressed. And so we provide all of those services as well, as you mentioned.
So great. And as I'd asked the students a moment ago, we have decision makers in our audience, and I just wonder if I can get from you your perspective on what you would want them to take away today from this discussion, and from the entire experience, actually, because it's been so great. Where's Wally? It's been excellent, so far. So what would you want them to take away from what we're discussing today?
Well, one, those that already are funding, we appreciate it so much. Our students, on behalf of all of the students of CUNY, we thank you. At BCC, we've seen almost 100% rise in the amount of students that come to our food pantry, but the dollars are still the same. And it's hard to stretch dollars for double the amount of people. So what I want you to take away is that New York City, for success in New York City, you need to invest in CUNY. CUNY takes up the student population is how much of New York we said earlier. And like Leslie Gordon said, people are promises. And it's a promise for our future. So if you have a way or know a way to invest in BCC, Medgar Evers, LaGuardia, all the CUNYs, that's what I would ask.
Rhonda?
For me, I would say, I hope that you've taken down the names of individuals that should be at the table when you're making decisions. Because many times we have individuals that are at the table, but they're not on the ground doing the work. And so that is very important, because those that are on the ground doing the work can give a different perspective. They can be a voice for the students and the populations in which we serve. And so I would really hope that the individuals that here are taking names and listening attentively to understand and to know who should be at the table.
Yeah, and that's such a great segue to this next question I'm going to ask you, particularly Rhonda, because we've been in the trenches for a while, and so we are we're acutely aware of what our students need, and faculty and staff, by the way, because not only students that come to the pantry. And so one of the things that we've talked about is related to sustainability of the food pantries. Now, while we adore our funders, again, some of the most committed ones Petrie and Food Bank for New York and HRA and many, many, many funders that we have, in many instances, our own institutions have not really developed a sustainability plan, even for those of us who advocate for it. And I know that you have been, and I'm so proud of you, Rhonda. I am so proud of you. You have been so tremendous in getting your institution to institutionalize your pantry. Can you share with us, whether it was struggles or whether it was fights or whether it was just you doing whatever you do, how you were able to do that?
So first, thank you, and to all of the directors of all the colleges and my colleagues who have been in the trenches for forever. Your dedication and your commitment is commendable, and everyone has a heart for the people that they serve. We are very fortunate that we do have an operational budget at LaGuardia. And in order to have that conversation, data is important. If you are not collecting data within your pantries or organizations, data is volume. And you have to know how to use that data to speak to the data as well as the narrative. So that, there are two different types of people, narrative people and analytical people. And you have to know what to speak to them, each individual about, and how to do that. With LaGuardia, it was very easy because the president and the VP, from the time that I've been there, understand and they know and they have not forgotten to where they have come from and the struggles that they faced. And so it made it easy to have them on board to help other students because that's who they are and it's what they do. To give you a little bit of context that I don't think people are aware of is that in order to stock the food pantry, it cost per month about $5,000 to $12,000. That's to stock the pantry. That does not include the equipment, the maintenance, the staffing, and all of the things that goes into operating a food pantry on campus. And most of us receive consistent grant money of about $25,000. So you understand that reach. Not to mention, it takes, once we have received an award notification that we are receiving the funds, it takes about 3 to 4 months before we actually get those funds. So there's a gap, and we're struggling to, how are we going to stock the pantry and continue in service until we actually receive the money that we received in an email about that we've been awarded the money. So the operational funding, that budget line from the college, the institutionalization of that is very important because it helps us fill that gap until we're able to receive other funding in order to sustain the pantries. Also, the funds should be unrestricted because we talk about providing vending machines, but when you have unrestricted funds, you have the opportunity to do home deliveries, you have the opportunity to do grocery cards, you have the opportunity to give debit cards where students could use the vending machine. So the funds should be unrestricted as well because seasons change. And so does the barriers that students face depending upon what's happening in the economy. So use the data, talk about how the data impacts GPA, retention from semester to semester, and ultimately graduate. At LaGuardia Community College, the students that use the services retain, have higher GPAs, and graduate higher than their counterparts that do not. We constantly speak that language. We constantly educate and inform individuals that have the privilege of going to the tables. They take that data with them, so that's important. And so that would be the thing that I would say most is the data that drives it, having a supportive team that understands, sharing your story, and being transparent. Also cross-training faculty and staff so that they can be advocates as well within the classroom. So there's a blurb in the syllabus about LaGuardia Cares, so the students know about that. We've cross-trained faculty and staff to look for indicators so that they can refer students to LaGuardia Cares. And with all of that's all data, surveys, feedback, cross-training, all of that's data. And it's packaged into a way that we can articulate and speak to all of the various areas, the wellness center, all of those areas, and how we know at the end of the day higher education is about business, right? So then you have to speak to, if a student receives the food pantry, they are retained from semester to semester and ultimately graduate, how does that add back into the economy? But look what it's doing for the financial stance of the college as well. So those would be some of the areas and some of the things that we've done. But they make my job easy because, like I said, I have great support.
Yeah.
I have great support.
And that's so important. Listen, 2 seconds. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
You matter. You matter, and you can make a difference.
That's right.
When you go to the store and you pick up a couple of cans and donate to the pantry, that's making a difference. When you donate in your expertise, because we need your expertise, that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And when you donate your finances, that makes a difference. So you matter, and you can make a difference.
Brain?
I just want to add,
Just
donate your time.
Uh-huh.
Your time to the pantry also does matter too. It also shows our students that we care and that we are there for them. And that's part of breaking down that stigma and breaking down that wall and getting them to feel comfortable. So,
thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can you give them? Thank you for your time and your expertise and your experience.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your stories. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to get ready to show another video shortly.
As a parent, you really want to get everything and the best for your kids and send them out to school and learn. But also as a parent, there are times where I have to decide if the rent can wait a little, but not the food. I have to feed the children. I have to be able to send them to bed with something in their stomach.
The struggle is real, and the struggle is apparent everywhere that you look, especially for families here.
If you're not one of the first 20 or 50s and you're at the very end of the line, you're not gonna be able to get all that was available at the beginning. Banana, por favor. You have to stop work or you have to miss work to be able to come and get this for free. Because otherwise you might not be able to buy all the things that you're getting here. Nowadays, food is expensive.
Inflation is really impacting our families. It's really hurting their bottom lines. Our parents are not able to stretch their budget. We're able to at least fill their pantry enough to make it to payday or make it to next week.
It gives me peace, and emotionally, it's overwhelming. It gives you a sense of somehow crying because I know I made it, and I know I'm gonna bring home food for my family and I don't have to worry about it.
Our families work so much and they work crazy hours, so they really rely on the public school system. So if their child doesn't get food through free lunch and breakfast, they're not going to be able to eat. They're going to have to find another way to feed them. We do our best to stretch our budget as much as we can, but we don't have funding during the summer. So most of our families, unfortunately, are going to have to find another source for that. For those that can write a check and those that can, make a financial contribution, if you heard just a quarter of the stories that we hear on a daily basis, you would know just how far that check can go for us. The old saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and for many of these families, we are that village.
So with this video, it was a little different than the video we showed earlier with the college students. So this one actually focuses on elementary school. So hunger doesn't start when students enter college, it starts before then. And so that's what this video showed with that topic. So to really get to the heart of the issue, we need to include leaders and advocate at the top of the food chain. And we have one here today. Chris Chicarico is a senior executive director of the Office of Food and Nutrition Services for New York Public Schools. In his role, Chris manages the daily operations of food services to over 1 million children in New York City. Welcome, Christopher.
I want to say it's morning, but I don't think it's morning anymore, so good afternoon, all. It's my pleasure to be able to speak here today about food insecurity and about what we are doing inside of the New York City Public Schools. I'm here to represent the Chancellor of the New York City Public Schools today, David E. Banks. He sends his regards. First, I'd like to start out with thanking Principal Cook. What an amazing speaker, and being able to hear about what principals are doing to fight food insecurity is amazing. It brings me to a specific memory when I was a principal, not too far from here in Bushwick, Brooklyn. I was a principal for about 10 years. And during that time, I quickly realized that the classroom was an important place to be, but also was the cafeteria. Being inside of the cafeteria for breakfast and for lunch, making sure I was eating with my children, making sure they ate every single day, and that the food was good and presentable was very important for me. Not only did it make me get a little chubby, it made me also realize what I was doing to promote the food program inside of the school. During that time, we were not free universal meals. So I had to make sure that kids understood that everyone was eating the same food and everyone was equal inside of that cafeteria for breakfast and for lunch. Transitioning years later to the Office of Food and Nutrition Services and heading up that office, we are now universal and we are free. That means that every single kid, child, student that is in our school program, that means all New York City Public Schools, all the charter schools that are in our school food authority, and all the non-public schools, all those children have free breakfast, free lunch, free snacks, free supper, and free meals on Saturday if programs are happening. We encourage, thank you, but that's a lot of work that has been done over the years by our partners and our advocates throughout the city that really made that universal meals possible. Why I bring that up is because during the school day, it's really important for us to continue to focus on encouraging all children to eat. Breakfast is usually served before the bell, but we have programs to encourage breakfast for all children, not just breakfast in the cafeteria. We have breakfast in the classroom. We have breakfast grab-and-go set up. People used to say, schools used to say, former principals used to say, it's impossible to do that all over the building. But during the pandemic, we actually did. We were serving meals all throughout the building. We continue to do that in every single school in New York City. And we also serve breakfast to any child coming to school late, all the way up until the first lunch period. And I remember what Dr. Cook said. He was trying to figure out ways to allow kids to eat when they were late. Any child that walks into New York City schools late is eligible to receive a meal. Most schools do it inside the cafeteria. Some have places set up inside of the schools, but it is our job, our school community responsibility, to be able to serve children meals. Coming to the point of high school students sometimes go outside for meals. We encourage them that they should stay in school. We have invested $125 million to renovate the service line of cafeterias, create a more self-service, more option-oriented way of serving meals. It's been in the press a little bit, but it's a way for us to increase meal participation inside of schools. It's a way for us to provide more options for children across the system. Our goal really is to create that environment and redesign these cafeterias in all middle schools and high schools across the city. We actually have about 160 already done, and we're going to work our way till we get to 300. This mayor, this administration has afforded us the opportunity to continue to allow that program to grow. High school students primarily, especially those graduating, should know that these meals are nutritious, delicious, and we have several options for them available. We have the strictest prohibited ingredient list in the country. We have the healthiest school food in the country. And I know some people might look at me and say, that doesn't look too appetizing, but we are working very hard with our partners at Wellness in the Schools to create culinary skills for all of our cooks inside of all of our kitchens to combat those criticisms that we have. And criticisms are good. Suggestions are good. Complaints are good. When students tell us they don't like the meals, we just don't walk away. We say, tell us why. Tell us what we can do better. In fact, and I know it's not common knowledge, all of the food that are on our public menus are student taste tested. All recipes go through a panel of students from all grade spans to make it on the menu. We have several recipes that do not make it on the menu. We table them, we try to change them a little bit, bring them back, but it's really important that students have a voice in what we do. In fact, we have a public survey and a little barcode to scan actually on our website for kids to provide us feedback. We want more feedback to be able to make these meals more enticing for students, especially high school children who have options to go outside in some schools. So as we combat food insecurity in the New York City schools, it's our primary duty to make sure school communities understand the program that we have and what we are trying to do to feed children. And I might take this opportunity also to mention our summer meals program. Our summer meals program is open throughout the city for any child 18 years old and younger. They do not have to be part of a summer program. They do not have to go to a summer school. And we're all over the city serving meals. In fact, last year, we served 7 million meals during the summer. And that's an accomplishment because that's up about 500,000 meals from the previous summers. So all of that is our mission and our vision to end food insecurity inside of New York City schools. And I charge all of you and I charge my team every single day. Talk to students, see what they need, see what else we can do for them. And with that said, I'd just like to thank all of you. This is really, really important work that we hold dearly to our heart. My team of over 8,000 New York City residents working in schools, the job is to feed children every single day. There's nothing more important than that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, for your remarks. So in order to make a difference in addressing this issue, we need to make sure we have an all-hands-on-deck approach. So this means we need to make sure we have our elected officials at the table. So joining us today are two formative figures in Brooklyn who are going to be coming up and speaking. First up is a woman who has devoted her life for fighting for the least powerful among us. So Reverend Kimberly Council is a law librarian. She's assistant pastor at the Greater Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. She's dedicated her life to community service led by her faith. Her service has spanned several issues. She's led programs to build affordable housing, organize food pantries, and youth engagement activities throughout the community. And in one of her current roles, she serves as the Deputy Brooklyn Borough President. Please welcome Reverend Kimberly Council.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. As was shared, I'm Reverend Kim Council, the Deputy Borough President, and truly it is an honor and a privilege to be here. I bring you greetings on behalf of our Borough President, the Honorable Antonio Reynoso. I heard like bits and pieces of my bio, and I was like, where did she get that from? But you know, I know what it's like to go to bed hungry, having grown up in HUD-subsidized housing in Bed-Stuy. I know what it is like to be in college and be hungry. I was actually away at school, and I remember waiting for those care packages to come through. And as an adult, I made the commitment to do the most that I could, or the best that I could, in order to serve community. So it is an honor and a privilege to know that so many of these organizations are coming together to address these issues of not just food insecurity, but housing insecurity. Because how can you learn and how can we get an education, which they say is the great equalizer, if we're hungry and we're dealing with all of these other issues? As an adult, I became the executive director part-time of my church's nonprofit, and we had an emergency pantry. But knowing the community that we were in like the heart of Crown Heights on the borderline of East New York and Bed-Stuy, we made that emergency pantry a full-time pantry. So we set it up so that it could be giving out food like every Saturday. And during the pandemic, we saw how communities came together to take care of the least of these. And as a preacher, I was thinking, as I was sitting here, there's a passage of scripture where Jesus is having a conversation with Peter, and he continues to ask the question, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, I love you, Lord. And his response is, then feed my sheep. So thank you to each and every one of you who are doing the job of feeding the least of these. God bless you, and have a great conference.
Thank you, Kimberly, for those words. So our next speaker has dedicated her life and career fighting for the underserved and making sure that everyone's voice is heard. Crystal Hudson is the council member for New York City's 35th District in Brooklyn, representing the neighborhoods of Prospect Heights, Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, and parts of Crown Heights and Bedford-Stuyvesant. Elected in 2021, Crystal made history as the first out Black woman ever to serve on the New York City Council. Crystal serves as the chair of the council's Committee on Aging and co-chair. Welcome, Crystal Hudson.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody feeling? That was kind of low energy. I hope you get more energy as the day continues on. But I'm Crystal Hudson. I'm a council member, as mentioned. I represent the amazing Medgar Evers College right here in Brooklyn. And I'm here actually with my colleague, Eric Dinowitz, who's a council member representing a district in the Bronx. He's also chair of the Higher Education Committee in the City Council. I'm chair of the Aging Committee in the City Council. Eric was supposed to speak on the panel next, but he has to run to go chair a hearing at City Hall. And so just because of the timing, we're gonna sort of tag team a little bit here for a moment. But I just wanted to speak very briefly about my experience with helping folks deal with food insecurity. Before I was elected, I created a mutual aid organization in Prospect Heights and in the district here. And in 2020, we really saw how COVID and everything created a greater impact on folks in terms of food security. And we saw so many people who were food insecure, who hadn't experienced food insecurity previously as people lost jobs and things. And we're seeing a lot of that again now. It was mentioned by the previous panel, the increase in the number of folks who are coming for help at food pantries at various campuses. And so with everything happening with the economy and whatnot, it's so incredibly important that for us as council members, we make sure that we create opportunities for people to get the help that they need through funding and other legislative means. So I'll kick it off to Councilmember Dinowitz, but thank you all so much for being here. This is such an important topic, and thank you to the Food Bank and to Medgar Evers for hosting.
Good afternoon. I was wondering if they'd have the slide up still with your name on it, but that would have confused everyone. I'm Eric Dinowitz, not Crystal Hudson. I hope you're all doing well. I am sorry I have to leave a little more quickly than I wanted. I chair the Higher Education Committee, and we do have a hearing at 1 o'clock. I got to race back to City Hall. But before I was a member of the City Council, I was a public school teacher. And day in and day out, I would see it in my classroom. Kids would be hungry. They'd have their heads down in class, Sometimes when they did eat, it was a bag of chips and a can of soda. It was whatever they could grab at the bodega or whatever they could grab with the money they had. And so when I think about food security, I don't just think about if a student is eating, I think about what they're eating. And it's actually been great to work with Chris on a lot of our schools. I'm not going to do his line very well. Healthy, nutritious, delicious, ambitious, proliferous, whatever his lines are. To see that in our public schools, and I was just at a cafeteria yesterday where it was a great salad bar, kids would go up, have a healthy, delicious, nutritious, ambitious meal. And unfortunately, I think that value or that message, the support for that hasn't quite yet reached college in a way that it needs to. In the city council, we believe it. We fund food banks and food pantries at our colleges. I know I represent Lehman College, and we help fund their food bank. There is a recognition in the city council, and we see this more and more with some of the funding we do and the bills that we're passing, that a student is about a lot more than their grades, than their transcript. A student is more than the four walls of their classroom. So in the city council, we do fund the food pantries, and we also fund things like childcare. We fund things like additional advisors for students, wraparound supports, Metro cards for students. All of these things play into one another to say that if you're a student going to college, your focus should be your education. You should be doing everything you can to uplift yourself, and you probably shouldn't be worrying about where you're going to get your next meal or where you're going to eat or sleep or how to get to college. And so we in the council are deeply committed to that. Crystal and I both sit on the budget negotiating team, and so we are in the room where we are trying to fight for those dollars to make sure that our students get the support that they need from our city council budget. And one day I just hope we recognize as a city, as a state, as a country, what a lot of us who are in this field already recognize, that all the stuff we talk about, advising and childcare and food, all that stuff is an extra. That stuff should just be college. I thank you all again, and thank you, Councilmember Hudson, for sharing the stage with me.
Thank you so much for those remarks. So our final panel today is going to be comprised of key community leaders and institutional leaders. So the panel is going to be moderated by Bill Ritter. Everyone knows Bill Ritter, right? Yes. He's been coming in our home for decades now, and he's one of the faces of WAB and ABC. He's more than just a face of news. He's a true New Yorker, and he's committed to talking about these issues today. What better person to guide us in our conversation today? So joining us is going to be Dr. Ramsey is going to be a part of our panel. Dr. Ernst is going to be a part of our panel. And we have one final elected official here. We have Linda Rosenberg, who's a New York State Assemblywoman. Rosenthal, sorry. Oh my God, because he's not here. Yes, you're ready, yeah. Hi. Thank you.
We were behind the curtain.
Sorry.
We thought we were being hidden there, but no. Thank heaven we were dressed up. I guess I can't say that. Thank you all for being here today. What a great symposium and a great summit, and we thank you for that, the president of the college, and the food bank as well. I'm Bill Ritter, and I work at Channel 7 Eyewitness News. I will say and admit, I assume like many of you, feeling pretty crappy. The world is a mess. And where it ends, I don't know. I worry, I think, because we don't know where it's going to end. situation in the Middle East without, no matter what your politics, no matter what your perspective, is a bad situation for humanity. And how do you solve that? And I was thinking as I was watching this great symposium start earlier and some of the speakers, if only they had treated each other better from the beginning. From the beginning, they would have understood that the things you do to bring people together who have vast differences are things like what this panel is all about. Addressing a problem, trying to figure out how to have the solution, because we're only as successful and happy and healthy as the people who have the least. And if they had done that in the Middle East 40 years ago, yesterday, a week and a half ago, 3 years ago, where would they have been? We're doing something about this, and I think that what we see in the world right now, this is a great example of how to make things better. It's unfortunate that people go to school and are hungry. But this kind of summit, this kind of commitment by the people who have been up here, college administrators, elected officials, they're making a difference, because we don't want that to ever happen here. We want to raise all ships. And the truth is some of the ships are sinking in our country, and we got to fix that. But I thank you for joining us this morning. I wanted to tell you how I felt going in, because I know a lot of people were scared. You're not alone. You're not alone. We have to only do what we can do better here in this country. That's my spiel. Thank you for being here today. Let me introduce our guests. Dr. Patricia Ramsby is the president of this place that you may know of, Medgar Evers College. So thank you for joining us, Ms. President. Dr. Bernicia Johnson-Eanes, good, is president of York College, also part of the CUNY system. And Linda Rosenthal is the New York State Assembly member, my assembly member in my district, District 67 in Manhattan, and she also happens to be chair of the Assembly Committee on Housing. So thank you all for joining us. We want to have, this doesn't work, this one? No, I guess not, okay. So I'm not that good at holding mics in hands and looking at notes. So I'm going to go like this. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. I get paid for talking, so I better be able to talk in a group like this. We want to take, I would say 15 or 20 minutes, or maybe 35, depending on how it goes, and talk about what the problem is and how you're addressing it, both as administrators and educators and as an elected official. And Doctor, I want to talk with you first, president of the college. How bad is the problem? We've heard about it, but from the top, from on high, how bad is this problem?
Well, thank you, and I'm just really proud to be a part of CUNY, and particularly a leader of Medgar Evers College. Came here in 2021 during the pandemic, and one of the first places that I went was over to the Transition Academy, where I met Dr. Waleed Boone. We were shut down as an institution, but we continued to serve the students and the community during that time. And I commend Dr. Boone because he is so passionate about this work that he would even go to the homes and take bags of groceries for people who could not get here. But while out, noticed that the community too was suffering. So we also opened up the opportunity for community members to come in to the pantry. That was in 2020, 2021, in the height of the pandemic. Well, the pandemic, as we know it, is over. But in fiscal year 2023, 1,500 of our students were served by Transition Academy, where our pantry is. Now, you have to consider 1,500 students, and last year, the enrollment was only 3416. So you're looking at almost 50% of the students being served. And so it is an ongoing issue that we have, not just as a college community, but as a nation. And one of the things that we have to think about in these roles that we serve in higher education, we have to know not just our students, but we have to know the communities that our students come from. And so I'll just end there.
Anyone can hop in and talk about this, and let me just go bring the next person in, because I want to hear your thing. This is again president of York College. Does yours work? Yes, they all work. They all work. How did we get here? You know, we were talking backstage. This is not your grandparents' school system. This is not the problems that your parents had in school. How did we get to a point where kids going to school are hungry? And you know, in the public school system in New York City, as we heard, this great gentleman here with a senior executive director, I love that, with the city schools and the health and nutrition of children there, everyone goes and gets 2 meals a day. 2 meals a day. 7 million meals served in summer when kids weren't in school. Even if they were in school, they came and got meals. How do we get to this point?
Well, thank you. So our data is very similar, and thank you, President, for having us. This conversation is important. I don't think that basic needs work has ever been very far from higher education. You know, I tell people all the time, you just have to pay attention to what you want the word to be on the street regarding your organization and helping. And so my office is a place where people know there are always snacks. Now that seems small, but hungry students inform you. And as you say, you can't be a policymaker and not upon high, because I don't think that that's where we sit actually, but you can't be a leader without understanding what's going on from day to day. And I believe that we got here because our economy is a very interesting shape. You know, employment. CUNY is an economic engine of the city, but the percentage of our students that work is much larger than your average higher education institution, along with the fact that we've been impacted even more by our students having to thrive and survive through COVID. I'm also a COVID president. My sister and I started very close to each other in our positions. And I will say that if you are a city university student who happens to be of a family that owns your own small business, let's say in Jamaica, Queens, right? And you had to quit coming to school. And your business, like many storefronts on Jamaica Avenue, was closed during COVID. Your hunger situation has changed altogether. And it's not just your hunger situation. You're probably talking about 30 people. Your average small business in New York City impacts and touches at least 30 to 40 people. Any of them could be hungry at any time. And so, and that could happen anytime, but then when you add COVID, and you add the economy, and you add the social distress that many of our communities are in, I believe that all that impacted whether or not somebody had an extra sandwich or what they need. And I say basic needs because my approach has always been to ask my campus to look at the basic needs, not just hunger, clothing, housing, all of us look at it that way, because it all impacts their ability to be okay and go to school. Thank you for the question.
And if there's no food, there's no learning. That's the mantra of the schools these days, right? I want to get the Assemblywoman's point of view too, and then we're going to dive into the weeds a little bit about how to solve this problem. Because we know that budgets citywide, statewide are in real trouble. I don't think people understand how big a trouble New York City is going to be in this coming year. There are going to be cutbacks, 5% every 3 months for the next 9 months. This is going to be very hard. Councilwoman Rosenthal, you were a city councilman too, right? No,
that was someone else.
A different Rosenthal. Okay, forget it. I erased that from your memory bank. All right. So tell me what the problem is as far as you see it before we get into the weeds.
Okay. Well, let me start way back. My family had to escape Nazi Germany, and they came here to the Upper West Side. And one thing I remember about my mother, she was adamant that you could not waste food. So if the banana was rotten, she still ate it. because they had food scarcity over in Germany, and when they came here, they had no wherewithal to buy nutritious food. And so that need has always stuck with me. And as I learned about the needs of college students, that 50% at least are food insecure, I decided that I had to get involved. And one way we make things happen is by passing legislation that can help organizations and agencies and people. So I am the sponsor of a bill. I work with Swipe Out Hunger, which is putting this bill out across the country. And it's called the Hunger Free Campus Act. And through that, I hope to fund food pantries across SUNY and CUNY because, well, first of all, there is a shame and a stigma that you don't have money to buy food. And there are programs that can help, for example, SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. But you don't want to put it out there that you can't afford anything and that you have to rely on government sources. So the idea is to have food pantries just like any other available service at a college or university, and the college student can drop by and pick what they need and go along their day. But the fact is that if you can't eat, if you have no food, you can't concentrate, you can't learn, you can't work, your whole life is affected, and it's such a basic need. And the fact is there's so many wealthy people, and there's so much food out there, but it doesn't get to the right people all the time.
So let's talk about the money, first of all, because there was a lot of talk today. There was just really an interesting summit here with all the different kinds of people talking about their own experiences and where they go from here and where we go from here. You have the abilities, each of you in your own way, to deal with the budgets of these situations, to pass bills that give money for this, and yet money is tight. So how do you do that? CUNY and SUNY schools, I think, are the best deal in America for colleges in terms of the prices. And the way we have it with people who don't make more than X amount of money, their families, you go for free. It doesn't get better than that. But it's the beginning, as we're finding out here with so many people with food insecurity. Where do you get the money? What is the most important thing? How are you doing this?
Well, Dr. Boone, every time he stood today, talked about, and we don't have resources. We don't have adequate resources. And so from the public side, we really don't have adequate resources for us to be able to provide what we would love to be able to provide as an institution for our students. So we do it through partners. We have incredible partners that assist us with this. Partners that are right here in this room today. And in the earlier panel, they talked about foundations being able to assist us. For example, the Petrie Foundation, which is here today. And so without these partners, we would not be able to do what we do. But we try to look at the students in a holistic way. And my sister president here was talking about the community being affected during COVID. And nonprofits and small businesses were hard hit during that time. Well, what we have done as an institution through an incredible opportunity that I had coming into the college just 6 weeks in, to get a grant where we could do some things to help our community get back on its feet as well as help our students. And so we have a program called the Brooklyn Recovery Corps. And with that program, we are partnering with small businesses and nonprofits. We have over 90 partners now, where our students are being paid by us through this grant, and those students then go out to these small businesses and actually serve as another staff person, because the student gets to choose and the business gets to choose as well as it relates to how this is going to impact that student for the future. Because we know that education, and it was said earlier, the great equalizer, according to the Department of Labor and Statistics, for every degree that a student gets, that increases the household income on an average about $7,000. So we want to keep the students in school so that they can get their degrees, so they can help their families. And what we have to do, and we do this all the time, we have to tell our stories. Because if people don't know that students in college actually are food insecure, because people see them and they look good, they're walking across the stage and everybody is excited, but if they don't know that we have students who have these needs, then nothing is going to change. And the whole thing about the stigma that's associated with it is, in certain cultures, a reality.
This is, you're going to have the hot seat now. This is not just good for the students. It's good for the businesses and the partnerships that you create and that are connected to, because this is the workforce. And you want an educated workforce.
I can't emphasize enough the role of community education and collaboration. I think that the way that we are the most successful is being able to shine the light on the data points that are relevant to the conversation, and then put the students that feel able in advocacy roles. You know, I tell my students, you know, where you are sitting and where I'm sitting is like a two-lane street with one stoplight. So if you want to be a leader, if you feel up to it, tell your story. I don't like to go anywhere to talk to anybody about supporting the students without a student. Take my students with me. And most of the time, their story is much more compelling than mine. And it is the truth for them right now. And most of the time, the partners want to hear that, and they support that, and then it grows, and it grows, and it grows. I think the community education and collaboration is a huge piece of our ability to talk with our local elected officials, to talk to grant funders, to talk to anyone and everyone, because our universities are state and city located. They are not state and city funded. So we're always trying to get resources. There's absolutely no, you know, but particularly for this, because retention and graduation is our lifeblood. If we don't retain and graduate students, there is no CUNY. If we don't graduate students, there is no New York City.
Well put. If you don't graduate students, there is no New York City. And I think that that is as important now, more important now actually than it's been in a long time, because of the people who are coming into the New York City school system, the people who are coming out of it, and you know, just something to keep in mind about New York City schools. In the year 2000, the average graduation rate in New York City schools was 50%. 50%. The overwhelming majority were young boys, they were boys, and who were people of color, mostly black. Mayor Bloomberg did a job. He got it up to 80%. It was 82% about right now. 82% from 23 years ago. Now, the problem is, are they ready for college? That's partly your problem too, and something you want to talk about? Yes. Before that, I want to go to the councilwoman. Assembly, because you're so local.
I have to schlep to Albany, so
Yep, yes.
I get the assembly title.
The assemblywoman lives 2 blocks from me, but she works in Albany, and I work down in Columbus Circle. But she watches Channel 7, so that's what's important to us. There are, and let's just put it right on the table, there are not so many people in the other party in Albany, but certainly in other parts of the country and in Congress, who say to people now, well, you know, colleges are too expensive, and probably a lot of people don't belong at college, and so that's okay with us. I'm not saying you or your party says that, but there is a party, a growing number of those people are saying that. Do you come in contact with that? Do you have to deal with that? And how do you remedy that?
I mean, most people I deal with in government are of my party, Democratic Party, and it is a tactic of the Republicans to belittle people who have education, and it makes people insecure. They should be proud that they're getting an education. They're trying to get ahead. They're trying to have a good life. And, you know, even Bush, who went to Yale, he was part of that. He's like, you know, some people don't belong in college. And the fact is that you need to have a college degree these days to qualify for most jobs. So it's counterproductive, and we don't really hear that in the legislature. But what we do hear is a steady drumbeat that we have to try to make CUNY and SUNY totally free, the way it was back in the day. You didn't pay for tuition, and that would be wonderful. We did give hundreds of millions of dollars in the budget for CUNY and SUNY. And what I tried to do is get a portion directly dedicated to stocking the food pantries. So in the Assembly, one house, the governor presents a budget, and then each house presents their budget, and at the end of the day, we meshed all three. So I had $1 million dedicated, $1 million for SUNY and CUNY food pantries. Ultimately, we gave a big chunk of money, not delineated for anything in particular, because you know best what needs you have. But I am trying next session to carve that out, because back when Cuomo was governor, he instituted in the budget a program called No Student Goes Hungry. And that mandated that there be a food pantry on every campus, but there was no money attached to actually stock it. And you're right, money is scarce. But what matters, what is of value to us? And educating kids is right up there, and if they are to succeed, they need access to food. And one other thing I've worked on is menstrual equity. So many young women do not have enough money to buy menstrual products. So that too needs to be available with the food, because they can't go to school if they don't have those products.
Getting down to the basics here. Let me ask you something, as long as we're talking about politics and about what's going to happen to the state and the city. We lost a lot of people during the pandemic. We lost a lot of people with the Trump tax hike when they outlawed having any, they didn't, it's all right, no problem. It's good music.
It's background music.
This is our break, it's a commercial break. We're back. When Trump took away the salt tax, state and local taxes, and when you get older, for those who are young, don't know what that is, you will know what that is. 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, New York residents could, because the state is taxed high, deduct the state income taxes they get and could deduct real estate taxes. Now that is limited to $10,000, which if you own a house in New York, you know that's not much money. People were driven away. Middle income, upper middle income people. Billionaires don't give a damn about $50,000 in real estate taxes because that's lunch money to them. And there are almost 800 billionaires in the country today. 20 years ago, there were 45. So the gap is huge, we know that. How do we get that money back? How do we get the people to come back who left and went to Florida or Texas without income taxes?
Well, we are getting an influx of migrants, so we are expanding the population that way. But, you know, I think a lot of people took off, as you say. They went to Florida, they went to California, and many of them realized, I don't really like it here, that they want to come back to New York. Part of the problem, though, is that it's so expensive. You know, there's stories of this woman on the Upper West Side. She gave up her rent-stabilized apartment to move to Vermont. She was there for like a few months and said, I can't deal with this. Too much green. And wanted to come back, but no rent-stabilized apartment ready for her. So we really, this goes into my housing hat, we need to build more affordable housing for people so they can live here. But, you know, it's an eternal question. Like, some of us want to raise taxes on those billionaires because, as you said, 50,000 whatever means nothing to them, and getting that extra revenue would help fund needed programs. But then you have the middle income who say, I can't even afford it. So I think people are starting to come back to New York because it's just better here. And yeah.
Okay, good. Are you seeing that? And where do you stand in terms of money? I know you want more money from the state. The state trying to give some money. There are a lot of people who say that's an easy way to cut some of the budget. How tough is that on you?
Yeah, well, we're always, because of our missions, we are always grappling with trying to get more funding, yes, from the state or from the city. But we realize that there's only so much money to go around. And so we have to look for alternative revenue streams. And this is what we do. This is why we're out not getting sleep, because we're trying to win friends and influence people for our institutions.
Get donors. Donors.
Absolutely, absolutely. But earlier you asked, well, how did we get here? And then you're having this, this political conversation. One of the things that we can do to change some of this is that we can really start looking at candidates who are trying to get in various offices locally, at the state level, at the congressional level, and we support those people who actually are in it for the people and not for themselves. And it's called voting. And the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, actually was signed right here on this campus by the governor. We have to care, and Deputy Borough President Council said it so well. We have to care about people other than ourselves. But we have gotten into a society where it's all about me. And we have to go back. You talked about how it was when we were in school. We have to go back to community and love our neighbor as ourselves.
Here, go ahead.
I can't agree more. And you know, I think that we hold a special opportunity with such a rich history as a system to continue to infuse the belief of success. The belief of success. So, you know, I tell my students, my sisters and I keep a cotton stalk in a very nice vase in every office we ever have. Because my grandmother had a second-grade education and she picked cotton. It's not folklore. It's not a slave movie. My grandmother. So that's my history. I understand that you can work hard and go to school and be hungry some days and be a college president. Your grandmother can get you from there to here. I know the people, I saw a past staff member of mine from a different CUNY school here. The people that work in these offices care deeply and they infuse belief in our students. Believe that you can get from where you are, from where you need to go. And that ultimately is the story that we're trying to infuse with what President Ramsey is saying. Caring, but also proof of belief of success. Because the success is what keeps the students going. They know they can do it. Give them what they need, they're gonna fly. But they have to believe.
We are dealing with food right now.
Yes.
I'm going to continue just in the last minutes we have. We're talking about food. What are the other barriers that add to that problem that you see here? Go ahead.
I think there's also a little bit of a basic logistics conversation that has to continue to go on with food. We cannot let the bureaucracy of getting what we need to the students become the barrier, right? We can't let that happen, right? And by nature of our organizations being so complex, all of our organizations, you know, I commend 2 meals a day, that amount. But there was a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of logistics that had to go on to get the public schools where they are now. Same thing with us. Yeah. So identify the barriers and get through some of that. And then also be very pragmatic and clear about the outcome that is success. Don't allow people to have a food pantry that's not a successful food pantry.
So be critical and use critical thinking when you
Yeah.
Your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, we need to look at food differently, because we talked about how it impacts the student's ability to be able to learn. or to focus. But also, we have to not just think about a person being hungry and eating a candy bar.
Right, good point.
We have to give them nutritious options. And people really don't necessarily know to do that if no one has taught them about healthy options. And so we have to, as higher education institutions and as K through 12 institutions, we have to teach some basic things to our students. For example, when you go to the grocery store, I used to tell my students, because I was a professor for a long time, look at the labels. What I discovered prior to coming here to New York is that the food that is the cheapest is the food that has the most salt. Pancake mix for 99 cents with 900 milligrams of salt. I am a scientist, so I had to get that part in there. But a $5 pancake mix box, because I actually went on the shelves and I looked, 80 milligrams. That's a significant difference.
Healthy eating is expensive.
So we have to teach our students and our community because it also affects health.
I'm good. I just want a last comment from you, doctor, because this is your place, and you got the microphone there. You paid for him. What would you like the people in the room to take away? With about less than a minute, because I'm getting my rap sign there on the side. But I want them to know what you want to get out of this for the people who are here today.
I would say stand in the shoes of your neighbor. And in this case, Medgar Evers College, the students. And think about yourself in their shoes and what you would want someone to do for you, and you do that for them.
That we could use that the rest of our lives, right? Dr. Patricia Ramsey, Medgar Evers College President, Dr. Barincia Johnson-Eanes of York College President there, and Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal from the New York State Assembly. Thank you all very much for giving us that insight. Really great. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Bill, for moderating, and just want to say, number one, a huge shout out to our leaders here in legislative, educational, news media, and information. Another round of applause for our panelists. Well, thanks, folks. We're almost at the finish line here. I'm Zach Hall, I'm the Senior Vice President of Programs here at Food Bank for New York City. Another shout out to our stage team here making it happen, and our audio-visual folks behind the scenes making this all possible. You know, what a day, and hear a lot of themes across the panelists and speakers today, really about, I think Dr. Zane said about action-based, right? We want to do stuff. We can talk here all day about all the problems that we have, but we want to actually do something about it. But it seems like a fairly big problem to address. I've heard themes around growth, student success, economic mobility, right? We're here to educate folks and get folks to a better place for them and their families. But I've also heard things about recovery, about equity, about community, and making sure that we can really uplift each other. And there's no way that one organization, one partner, one team, one person can do that. It takes all of us. And we know that it takes more than food to ensure student success, but what can we do? You know, we at Food Bank work tirelessly around, of course, feeding our neighbors today, but we also do things to provide food for tomorrow. And I have the privilege of leading teams that do just that, and looking at really a whole person approach around connecting folks not only to food, but to SNAP benefits that Dr. Freudenberg talked about this morning. We have a free tax assistance program that actually, you may not know this, but Food Bank has been doing free tax assistance for 21 plus years. 1.4 billion with a B dollars in cash refunds that we put back in New Yorkers' pockets. low-income folks and families to put food on the table, stay housed, stay heated and clothed. We provide financial empowerment work. We provide nutrition education to make sure folks know, just as we were talking about, how to eat healthy, even on a limited budget. And we do a whole bunch more, but we never do it alone, right? We have dozens and dozens of partners in this room and across the city, across our 800+ pantry network. We have dozens of college campus pantries, K-12 campus pantries. And so it's all of us to improve food security and financial stability for low-income families across the city. I want to touch on one thing, and then there's maybe a provocative idea. So we're in a college here, and as Dr. Freudenberg noted, SNAP is such an opportunity for our students and families. How can we get those benefits into the hands of those students who need it? We're experts in the SNAP space. We've been doing SNAP work for over 30 years. We chair a New York City SNAP task force. We train hundreds of organizations and partners across the city, and we support folks getting more ability to enroll folks in SNAP. But I wonder, college financial aid offices have a ton of information that parallels a lot of the information on student finances that are required for a SNAP application, or at least to identify if students are eligible for SNAP. How can we be innovative and look at ways in which we can partner with colleges across the city, CUNY, non-CUNY colleges, to really identify those students at the level that information is shared, not only at Transitional Academy like Medgar Evers happens or other student services, but in the offices in which a lot of the information lives. And I pose that question to our college partners. I look forward to engaging folks around that discussion. We happily, obviously financial aid is not my expertise, but certainly we have some information on how we can partner on SNAP and other benefits. But of course, there's more that we can do. And I'd like to call my friend and colleague here, Carmen Boone, who's our Vice President of Government Relations at Food Bank, to kind of activate us in things that we all can do in our respective areas to take a food security pledge. Carmen, come to the stage, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. My name is Carmen Boone. I am the Vice President for Public Affairs at Food Bank for New York City. I have the pleasure to close the program today by presenting to you all our College Food Security Summit Pledge. I'm going to ask to all of you who can to please rise from your seats and raise your hand to read together the first paragraph of our pledge, which you can see on the screen here. You also have it in your folders. Okay, ready? Let's do it. I pledge to work toward food security on college campuses by raising awareness, fighting stigma for students to get help, supporting legislation to expand access to vital programs and funding, and fostering community support to connect college students and staff in need to services. Thank you. You can see it now. Almost. As you can see in the summit folder that you received today, our pledge also states additional commitments for students, college leadership, elected officials, and government agencies. Please join our networking lunch and resource fair, where you will have the opportunity to learn more about these commitments and ways you can join the action. We want to thank the following organizations and agencies participating in the resource fair today: the New York Department of Social Services, Swipe Out Hunger, Food Policy Reformers, Young Invincibles, Food Bank for New York City's Programs and Public Affairs Areas, and Medgar Evers College Transition Academy. Please stop by to make sure you sign the pledge, grab a toolkit to learn how to write a letter to your elected officials, and also to how to connect students to services, and sign up for our first Food Security Youth Advocacy Council. Also, get information about SNAP enrollment and tax prep assistance. You will also have the opportunity to learn about other community and government programs and resources available to you, and share your contact information so we can keep you informed of future campaigns, activities, and other activations. And we also have swag, like pens and mouse pads, so make sure you grab that too. Big shout out to Medgar Evers College for hosting us today, and enjoy the lunch, and thank you so much for joining us both online and in person. Thank you so much.